Ladies and gentlemen, with the arrival of our chief guest, the Honourable Minister, Dr. Amunugama, we'd like to begin the formality of our event, and it does with the national anthem. Aiboan, Vanakkam, good morning, warm greetings to all. And how good it is to be able to see the hall filled as it is, and no doubt will be even fuller in the next few minutes, because we understand it is intended to be a real full house. And all of you are engineers, or at least affiliated to the subject of engineering. And engineering involves, or has been involved in, everything. This stage and the construction of it has engineering design, and we are able to appreciate that. This building here is on account of the effort of civil engineers, and we are happy and comfortable to be using this facility because all the nitty-gritties have been attended to and we feel safe. In fact, speaking of safety, agriculture and livestock nurture allows us to find food and refreshment, but the preparation of it, the conversion of it, the adaptation of those things that come up from the soil has been made possible because of engineering. And the ability to be able to consume that which we consider to be safe is because engineering has been brought to bear in making food safe. We have all those wonderful devices that are in front of us, or in our laps, or in our pocket, what we refer to as the electronics. Well, that's engineering too. And while we're on the topic, may I urge you to please switch them off so that they don't intrude on the comfort of others, for indeed this is a formal occasion, and we wouldn't want to be disturbed with bits of music that come up or buzzing sounds from unknown sources. So going back a little bit, we don't see too much of what Anuradhapura might have been like, because what we have are monuments, amazing in themselves, and we appreciate that something marvelous was achieved by engineers of that time. But interestingly, the traveler Cosmas Indicopleustes, who was traveling from Alexandria in the 6th century, came here, and what he has written about what he observed in Anuradhapura of that time helps us to appreciate that there must have been a very high level of engineering skills that have been brought to bear in the planning and the construction of Anuradhapura. By modern terms, it was a highly developed city. And of course, we can appreciate similarly in the medieval capital of Polonnaruwa. There is more to see there, and the masterful works that have been achieved in irrigation help us to appreciate that engineers were there and working. And then we come to the modern period here in Sri Lanka, and we have concerns. There are some levels of haphazardness that seem to have intruded and made things not so comfortable, especially when there are heavy rains. And we worry about things that might burn out or not be able to be sustained. And so that's why this National Engineering Conference has this vital theme. More on that, obviously, by our many presenters who will be taking account of the different areas that must be brought to bear in fulfilling this theme. We'd like at this juncture to invite the incumbent president of IESL, Ms. Engineer Wimalasena Gamage, to the lectern now, and we will be inviting your attention as he speaks. I'd like to warn everyone who is going to be coming up on stage, this is a slippery stage. Step carefully.
Good morning, Dr. Sarath Amunugama, Hon Minister of Special Assignment, Dr. Engineer S.B. Vijayakon, Chairman of IESL National Engineering Conference Committee and immediate past President, President-elect, Vice Presidents and Council members, fellow members. Mr. Ranjit Panditage, Chairman, Managing Director, Diesel and Motor Engineering Company Limited. Mr. Sunil Vijayasinghe, Chairman, United Motors Lanka Private Company Limited and Wattle Plantation Company Limited. Engineer Gamini Nandagunawardena, Managing Director, Sega Resources Development Consultant Limited. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege and honor with great pleasure to welcome all of you for the third IESL Annual Engineering Conference. First of all, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Hon Minister of Special Assignment, Dr. Sarath Amunugama. Sir, you have had close relationship with engineers for a long time as Minister of Public Administration and Minister of Irrigation and Water Management. As Minister of Irrigation and Water Management, you introduced a very novel concept to the irrigation sector, Wari Hamudava, to use young generation for development and maintenance of irrigation infrastructure, and Wari Sabha to get the active farmer participation and their views for agricultural development with better water management. Secondly, I would like to welcome our guest speakers of the morning session, Engineer Gamini Nandagunawardena, IESL fellow member, Mr. Ranjit Panditage, and Mr. Sunil Vijayasinghe, both eminent private sector executives. Even though they are not here, I would like to mention here and that in the afternoon session of this conference will be graced by Hon Patli Champaka Ranawaka, Minister of Megapolis and Western Region Development. Guest speakers, Professor Amal Kumarage, Senior Professor of Transport Sector Expert, Engineer Mangali Apa, Managing Director, Agency of Development at the Ministry of Development and Strategies and International Trade, all are eminent engineering experts. Thirdly, I would like to welcome our past presidents, President-elect, Vice Presidents, past Presidents, President-elect, Vice Presidents, Council members and fellow engineers and all distinguished invitees. The IESL and Organizing Committee very correctly to suit the times, have chosen the appropriate theme, National Policies, Voice of Engineers, for this year's as seminar theme. A new era has dawned in Sri Lanka. Peace has been consolidated over 30 years civil conflict. The country's 68 years old democracy has been reinforced, and the present national government is in the process of development of the country, prioritizing business-friendly policies using advantage of today's peace to build a thriving economy. There will be a major role for public and private sector as well as public and private partnership implementing the projects in particular, as well as laying the groundwork for the future economy in general with its people. The role of engineer is very significant in national development, and all of us as engineers in the country, whether in public sector or private sector, very much love our country, and they want to develop this country in a sustainable manner using natural resources and local talents and expertise. Minister Sir, last year, 2015, His Excellency President Hon Maithripala Sirisena raised this occasion, and we IESL request him to help to get the bill passed, Establishment Engineering Council, our long-term request. It is with great pleasure I mention here that the bill is already approved by the Cabinet and published in the Gazette. I would like to thank President, Prime Minister, and Cabinet for their fullest cooperation, and on behalf of engineers would like to request from the Hon Minister and your government to extend the same cooperation to pass the bill in the Parliament at earliest. Once again, I would like to welcome all of you in this August gathering and hope this seminar would help to voice the engineers' view for national development. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Mr. President for helping us to appreciate the emphasis that has been placed on the work of the Institute, the talent that resides with it, and how, in fact, it can be applied. And you mentioned last year the signal move forward and carrying forward all of that this time. So let's, without further ado, invite our chief guest for the inaugural address. So with much pleasure, we invite the Honorable Minister of Special Assignments, Dr. Sarath Amunugama.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here this morning to represent His Excellency the President at this very important conference. His Excellency was looking forward to attending this meeting because he has the greatest of respect for the engineering profession. He had moved very closely as Minister in charge of Mahavali, Minister of also Irrigation, and in his various capacities. You know him very well as a minister who's very close to the engineering faculty. I myself have had the privilege of working with many of you in my previous capacities as Minister of Irrigation, Minister of Public Administration, Minister of Finance. So I think it's a great privilege for me to be here this morning. As you all know, we are now engaged in economic growth. We are on a growth trajectory. That is important because unless we have rapid growth, we will not be able to make living something worthwhile, especially for the poorer segments of our population. So every government has tried to mobilize resources to develop this country, particularly in trying to maximize our assets. They may be material resources, or they may be human resources. Whatever area we talk of, it is our responsibility to see that the country gets the benefit of maximizing those resources. And in the modern world, that can only be done by emphasizing science and technology. The world has gone through different phases, but it is one of the characteristics of modern civilization that we are evolving daily to a more technological world. It is that technology that is helping our people to live a better and fuller life. So we must begin by thanking the engineering and science and technology sectors of our country for bringing us to this level of growth. It may be in irrigation, it may be in public works, it may be in other forms of engineering, electrical engineering maybe, but in all those, you have made a very distinctive contribution which has led to improved life for most of our people. So I think the country owes you a great vote of thanks. And I'm happy on behalf of our President to convey to you the thanks of this country and also, of course, our good wishes for the success of this conference. Now, one of the characteristics of modern public life is that there is a greater participation of engineering and scientific cadres. If you look at China, for example, tomorrow, day after, I'm again going to China. There, if you look at the governing bodies, more than 75% of them are engineers. In many other countries, among the decision makers, there is a large contingent of science and engineering people. I'm sorry, I can't say the same of our cabinet and parliament. That is one of our defects. You must make a much bigger contribution to decision making in this country and not only be, as our chairman mentioned, hoping that decision makers will quickly give effect to the type of legislation that he referred to. So that's the first point I want to make. If you look at the history of Sri Lankan parliament or Sri Lankan politics, my personal view is that the number of engineers, the number of scientists could have been much more. So there may be many of you here, I hope quite a lot of you, who will take a greater interest in policy making, in public decision making, and let your ideas be known. Of course, many of you, I must say, do contribute to the media on special projects, how to improve them, sometimes defects in them, but I think that type of contribution must increase. You must speak fearlessly, because unlike in other areas, the areas that engineers enter into cost a lot of money, cannot be turned back without losing a lot on that investment. So your prior advice, your prior views on these projects are very welcome. Because in the future, every country will go for more infrastructure, for more growth on technological lines, on scientific lines. So to that extent, your contribution also should be greater. Now, if you look at the type of projects we have in mind, for example, the port city, Hambantota development, Trincomalee development, Kandy development, these are zonal developments which entail a large investment in funds, in technology, and your skills. Without those skills, we cannot move forward. Already we have problems. There are so many investors who come to this country and say that unless they have more scientific cadres, more people who have come from the science stream, it is difficult for them to get that mass which will help them to invest in a big industry and to make profits by investing in them. Government does not have that problem maybe, but when we expand and we want private investment, foreign investment, to make good use of our people, then one of the problems we find is that our educational system is not throwing up enough in the science and technology sector, which will help us to attract more investment in those fields. If you look at the growth in China, the growth in India, and now the growth in Vietnam and many other Southeastern Asian countries, most of it is based on a good use of engineering and scientific skills. I mentioned the leaders of China. Similarly, the leaders of Vietnam are largely from the engineering and science sector. So, when we think of the future, we have to think of realigning our educational policies to have more and more people like you. Because you have not only the academic education, but each of you in your workplaces have a lot of practical and hands-on training. Many of the investors to Sri Lanka give us plus marks when it comes to the quality of personnel that Sri Lanka produces. That is one of those elements which help us to position this country better than our competitors. Not only at the highest levels, but even at middle management. Many of the investors, particularly Japanese, particularly Chinese, have told us that in Sri Lanka, when they interact with their counterparts, or when the middle management has to look at manuals which are in their own language, to have discussions with people who come speaking only that language, then Sri Lankans are much more adaptable, much more educated, and can provide those positions in a shorter and better way. So these are some of the advantages we have. And I think I'm preaching to the converted when I say that we must increase our science and technology stream. I think you all agree with me. I have to take this message to other fora, not so much to you, because you're already convinced and you have dedicated your lives to developing Sri Lanka through science and technology. If you look at our economy in terms of the three sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, and services, all three badly need your services. If you take the agriculture sector, through the irrigation systems, through providing water, particularly to our farms, you have done a magnificent job. People do not realize how much our irrigation engineers have contributed. When many of the public servants are clamoring to come to the cities, it's only our engineers who have been hands-on in those work sites. Your chairman was good enough to refer to my innovations when I was Minister of Irrigation, because every month we used to have these meetings near the village tanks with all the engineers and our technical staff. And I was surprised because this was beamed through the country. And many of our engineers and technical staff came and told me, Minister, for the first time our families know what we are doing. All they know is that we come and stay in the jungle. They don't know what we do, the type of dams we build, the type of canals we are constructing. the type of water issues we are responsible, even our families are not aware. I think that's true of some of you also. Though we have done major works, even your families and your neighbors don't know the enormity, the magnitude of the services you have rendered. So I'm very glad that you are having conferences of this nature. The public must know what you have done. And we are undertaking more and more gigantic tasks. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I only want to say that this country deeply appreciates the type of work that you are doing. If you look at our electrical engineers, from the time of Mr. Vimala Surendra, we have become pioneers in electrifying this country. Today, I think about 97% of the people of this country have electricity in their homes. Which other country can boast of an achievement like that? Even in the developed countries, 97% of power connectivity is a very good figure. What about the water engineers? What about the irrigation engineers? What about the road builders? Every one of them have made a major contribution. And on behalf of the government, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I want to pay you that tribute and to say that this country appreciates the work that you have done. There will be much more work in the future, and we should all get together and expand science and technology education in this country. It's not the fault of poor kids, because when they go to school, they have only the opportunities of going into the art stream, or at least now they have added commerce stream. But of the 10,000 schools in this country, you will be shocked to hear that only 900 of them, or at most 1,000 of them, 1/10, offers these rural children the opportunity of going into the science streams. Not only at the level of going on to university and tertiary education, but even at the level of secondary education, of non-degree technical education, we have to reorient our policies in the shortest possible time. So you all have set a good example to this country. More and more people must come into this area. And if I may offer a mild criticism, it is that the country does not know the amount of work that you have done for all of us. So that I think through this conference, through your media, and also through our public acknowledgement, I think we should make the country know what a good job you have done, and also at the same time expect you to do even better in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Honourable Minister, for your hearty appreciation of the profession. I believe we have a token of appreciation to be handed over to the Honourable Minister. I wonder whether we can pause ever so slightly in the movement to be able to accomplish that. So we would like to invite Ms. Engineer Vimala Senagamage, the President, in the company of the Chairman of the Conference Committee, Dr. S.B. Vijayakon, and Engineer Jayavilal Meegora, President-elect, to quickly step forward with that little ceremonial handover of a token of appreciation. There we are, a token of appreciation. Thank you very much, Dr. Amanugama, for having graced this occasion and contributed vitally. So as the saying has it, hot on the heels of that endorsement and the recommendations made by the Honourable Minister, we now focus on that matter of involving engineers in policy making. So our speaker now is one who is a member of the IESL. In fact, he's a chartered engineer and a corporate director as well, a chartered mechanical engineer and an alumnus of the University of Peradeniya. And he has also secured an MBA from the University of Colombo and has undergone extensive training in software project management and corporate management in Japan, and also has taken on in his time an interesting subdivision of this realm, developing a telemedicine network. And Gamini Gunawardena has served on many boards of directors, and interestingly, in this year, February, he completed a challenging strategic human resource development consultancy, and that involved 16 countries in the region, and the details of which might be found in the brochure that you all have. And he's also a founder, member, and a senior advisor to the Professionals, or should I say, United Professionals Movement, or the UPM, formed in November last year to ensure active participation of professional groups in national policy making. So with that background, we now deal with engineers' role in national policy making. Engineer Gamini Gunawardena.
Engineering is the art of directing the great sources of power in nature for the use and convenience of mankind. This is how, in fact, the Honorable Minister endorsed the same sentiments. Although he is not here, the Chief Guest, Honorable Minister, the distinguished speakers, President and the Council members of the IESL, and I am carefully using these words to say decorated warriors in the field of engineering. I don't need the traditionalists, conformists, I need the people who break barriers. And most importantly, young professional engineers, ladies and gentlemen. This year, the topic, National Policies, Voice of Engineers, I should say it's a very appropriate topic at this current moment, and which is a clear indication to say that as the prominent engineering body in the country, IESL endorses that views, and IESL wants to develop engineers who would be transformational leaders in the years to come. Traditionally, what was engineering? The engineers, they were basically concerned about producing some equipment or some software product that will satisfy a customer's functionality need at the best possible cost, and probably, most importantly, that you should ensure the safety of using that product or the service so that that will contribute to the development of the mankind. This was original engineering. Now, going on that, engineering is everywhere. You can see, you name it, wherever it is, engineering is there. Providing water, solving problems, creating cars, gadgets, fashion and beauty, sports, healthcare, medicine, built environment, food. But, borrowing from the Honorable Minister, sometimes even our family members, they don't know what we do. Why is that? What was the reason for that? We were at the core of any development. We were blacksmiths working behind the foundry. We were arrowsmiths working behind the furnace. And we were bladesmiths behind the bellows. But we were not heard of. We did not come to the limelight. Why? Because we thought that being humble and doing our work behind the work, that's good enough. Whereas for all the good work what we did, all the other people, they were there to claim the glory and the prestige of the work what we do. So if I say in Sinhala, so far we have been කොට අදින අලි. පෙරහැර යන අලි කොටසක් ඉන්නවා, කොට අදින අලි කොටසක් ඉන්නවා. So we have been, as engineers, we have been Kota Denali. So now it is time for us to seriously look at and decide, still going forward, also whether we want to be Kota Denali or whether we want to be both Kota Denali, e wagema Perahera Yanali. If we are not ready to change our mindset, we will continuously be this Kota Denali, and even our family members, even our colleagues, our associates will not know, and they won't appreciate because they do not know what we are doing. Generally, an engineer's role is defined by the engineer's profile. They thought, okay, engineers are logical, they are methodical, they are objective-oriented, and make rational decisions. Those are the plus points what the engineers bring to the table. Then they use technical knowledge to ensure the validity of information. They can analyze technical problems and explore alternative solutions, can engage in cost-effective technology planning. And above all, engineers can give inspiring leadership through attributes of abilities, skills, and knowledge. But is it true? Can we inspire masses? It's a question that you all should think for yourself. Yes, probably maybe you can inspire your own engineering colleagues, those who are working for you. Beyond that, can you all convincingly, how many of us can convincingly go to a forum and give the inspiring leadership to a diverse sector of professionals so that they can look upon on us to say, okay, these people see the big picture and we can basically give them the leadership. So these are the questions we should ask for ourselves. What is engineering going to be now? Now, engineering is going through a drastic change. The world is changing. The world is changing very fast. It is anticipated that within next 20 years, 80% of the current jobs will go out of the window. Already in countries like US, the legal profession is dying because now they have come up with Watson artificial intelligence systems. They can give more than 100% accuracy compared to a human being. As engineers also, our days are numbered. Unless otherwise, we change our focus and we can show as engineers rather than just sitting on the computer and do software program or doing maybe approving OT or leave or maybe doing some design work. Unless otherwise, we can show to the masses that we can add value to the society. Our days are also numbered, my friends, whether we like it or not. Although minister says it is mildly, I can say it critically because I myself being an engineer. So with all good intentions, I think we have to redefine engineering. It is not only functionality, cost or safety anymore. Going forward, engineers' responsibility is more and more becoming, they call it triple bottom line sustainability. If you do any project, for example, economic prosperity and continuity of the project is important, social well-being is important, environmental protection and resource conservation is important. So it is very, very important for us to see as engineers, don't blame politicians, don't point fingers at politicians. Don't forget when you point a finger at a politician, 4 fingers are pointing at you. Now, if you look at some of the development work that has taken place in the country within last 10 years, have we done our part? If we have done our part, there is no reason for us to again go back and criticize and say, was it a correct decision? We should have proactively highlighted this and we should have bring it up at the correct forum and we should have debated the merits and demerits of taking those decisions, which did not happen. Because engineers have the skills to bring their vision to fruition, the engineer is both an arrowsmith and archer, shaping the future directions of the society. This is very, very important to get the visibility and the recognition. We should come out of our lackadaisical attitude we can't just be the arrowsmiths behind the bellows. We have to be an archer. We should see, I have deliberately selected this archer with 3 arrows. When it's not just preparing the arrow, but when we are directing, we have to see what kind of society am I going to create. It's not just doing a scientific innovation, it's not just doing some creation and leaving politicians to take decisions. In fact, I was very happy to see, I can definitely take a cue on that, what the Honorable Minister said. If you look at China, if you look at Singapore, how many cabinet ministers are engineers? More than 50%. But whereas, if you look at our cabinet, how many of them are there? Hardly, maybe 1 or 2. So who is at fault? Don't expect that anybody to come and take you to the decision-making table. It's up to us to make our way through and feel that we can contribute. Why sometimes we can't do is because we don't see the difference between the engineer's role and we don't see the difference of a policymaker's role. Engineers, generally they have limited influence as compared to a politician or a policymaker. They are very much product focused. They do not look at it in a broader perspective. They have deep subject knowledge. For them, expert opinion matters. For them, there is nothing called gray. Either it is 0 or 1. But the world is not so. So we have to be mature enough to understand that. Decision based on always verified facts, world is again not so. You can't always take decisions on verified facts. There are some entrepreneurs, Mr. Panditage is here. For example, if you are to take decisions on business decisions on all hard specified facts, then everyone will be an entrepreneur, which is not so. You have to take calculated risk. And you have to create ideas and technologies, and above all, engineers always see the trees, nitty-gritty, and they get involved into the nitty-gritty. As against the policymakers, or we believe they are deprived of knowledge, but not necessarily to be. They have the knowledge that is required, most importantly, to get the knowledge from others. This is the most important skill. It's not just you having the knowledge by yourself. You should know where to access and how to get the knowledge. They are very much process-oriented, as against engineers are product-oriented. They have a broad subject knowledge, but might not be deeper subject knowledge. For them, this is where we fail as engineers. For us, it is always our methodology, our validated facts are correct. For them, what matters is not the validated facts. The majority opinion matters for politicians. Decisions are in interest of a broad spectrum of society, and they create laws, and they see the forest. They see the big picture. So, if we are to be policymakers, on the surface of it, it may look like that because we have the technical knowledge, we should know what is best for the country, we should know what is best for the society, so we should be part of the legislation and policy-making process. Yes, definitely that is true. But to what extent? This is the question. As technological advances increases, it is apparent more than ever before that professional engineers need to take a leadership role in the sustainable development, application, and use of technology. On the other hand, legislators and regulators should heed the advice of the technologies and develop and enforce appropriate laws and prohibitions. But to do this, we can't ask for our pound of flesh. Sometimes we take a very laxicide attitude. We say, okay, let them do the work, and once they do something wrong, we will criticize. As responsible professionals, that's not the way. We should be proactively at the discussion tables. We should be at the process of creating the future of this country. So for which we have to understand very briefly, a policy is more than a scientific evidence. Generally in policy making, law, economics, politics, and public opinion are all important factors. It is not just validated information and rational decision making. policymakers do understand uncertainty and draw up options with incomplete information. Now, this is the main problem with our engineers. When we are asked to take decisions, unless otherwise we can have 100% information, and we might need ages to get all that information, we are not ready to take decisions and we are not ready to make move. So what? You can always make mistakes. There are no perfect people. At least if you can make majority of correct decisions, this is where the country should move on. Public opinion is a critical component of the policy process, which I am happy to say, now this time we gave the leadership, and when we discussed about these bilateral agreements, the government always listened to the professionals, and they wanted to get the feedback from the professionals. That's the way the country should progress. Policy decisions are regulated by professional guidelines, and scrutiny should come from a wide range of institutions and angles. Right now, even when you talk about this bilateral agreement, this is the responsibility that lies with the professional organizations. For that matter, it is because it's the engineering forum with IESL. Now, we have gone so far, and we have got the government concurrence that they are ready to listen to the professional organizations. So now it is time for us to give our inputs to the government to ensure that the necessary regulations are intact. Then policy making, we have to understand it is not just a science, it is an art and a science. Every situation is unique, lot more complicated and iterative. You can't have a straight-jacket policy that after that you are not going to bring any changes. So much so, the world is changing so fast, it is very difficult in the time to come what will happen in the next year. So you can't have a very clear policy guideline other than a policy direction. Starting policies from scratch is a very rare option. Why? Because the politicians has to deliver. They come to power just for 5 years, 6 years, and within that time period, they are supposed to deliver some results to the public. Otherwise, their survival is not there. So we have to, as professionals, we have to understand, we have to strike a balance between policy creation and delivery. Policy and science operates on different time scales. For policy makers, they want that to be done yesterday. Whereas engineers, they might say, okay, we want 6 months to come back with the information we need. So we lose credibility. Policy makers also are human beings. As best of intentions, they make wrong decisions. They could be experts too also, don't underestimate. And above all, policymakers are not a homogeneous group. We as engineers, we are very, very comfortable in dealing with engineers. But when we are thrown into a, let's say, another professional group, maybe accountants, maybe lawyers, how many of us are comfortable in dealing with a diverse group of professionals? Speak to yourself and verify for yourself. So these are the gaps. If we are to, first we have to understand these are the gaps we have if we are to come out of that and if you want to be part of policymakers. Now with that, what has happened is because of our mindset, we ask for optimal national policies from policymakers. Either we are not asking anything, or on the other extreme, we ask for optimal national policy. It's like, in our engineering terms, it's like that we ask for a perpetual motion machine. Being engineers, you all know how practical a perpetual motion machine is. So be realistic. Understand that we are the world that we live in, and we have to see how we can be part of national policy making. To do that, we have to go through a paradigm shift. To your left, you can see that there is a picture. I know that generally that all of you all are used to used to see trees. In this picture, you all would have seen the forest. Maybe all of you saw that there is a couple in a compromising position. How many of you all saw the trees there? If you really see, there is no couple there. It's only a illusion, optical illusion. There are 9 dolphins there. If you really see, there are 9 dolphins. Right? So, gentlemen, why I am putting this up to show that if you really want, you can change your mindset. You can go through a paradigm shift to look at the problem in a different perspective. Maybe we were used to look at trees, but now it is time for us to look at forests. And don't be technicians, be a technocrat. One fine example I have selected here is President Abdul Kalam. Being a space scientist, being an engineer, he ended up his career as the President of India. So we have to be in the power in politics and industries if the governments, policymakers, if they want us to listen to themselves. So it is within ourselves. Don't expect anyone else to take you and say, okay, now you can be part of the policymaking body, which will not happen. So if so, how we are going to do that? We should look at problems and change your mindset than being a specialist to a generalist. Understand the models, tools, and terms used in key disciplines, including law and economics. Those are not alien to us. I can tell you without any doubt, all of you can be a better lawyer than any of the lawyers in this country. All of you all can be a better economist than any of the economists in this country, as long as you want to do that. So take it up as a challenge. Basis of evaluating the stakeholder needs. You have to understand that you have to evaluate the stakeholder needs. It's not my way or highway. You can't go anywhere with that attitude. Then instead of being an analyst, try to be an integrator. We are very good at analyzing. And we do analysis so much and it leads to paralysis. So get out of that mentality. Be an integrator, multidisciplinary teams, how to manage a multidisciplinary team, make appropriate trade-offs to solve complex policy trade-offs. Technician to strategies. Shift fluidly between the details and the larger picture. See the forest, see the trees. Not just always look at the trees and say, take decisions. Anticipate and influence the reactions of key external players. You have to listen to that because policy making is the public opinion matters. So it is not only your way. Then be an architect instead of a bricklayer. Understand and design systems to be in harmony with the society and the environment. Harness synergy to make needed country changes. Problem solver to diplomat. We are very good at problem solving, but most of us, we can't handle the situation diplomatically. You can object, you can oppose, but it should be done diplomatically. Prioritize the problems the country should focus, address issues that may not fall into consent domain but are still important. Then warrior to diplomat, proactively shape the policy objectives by influencing key external constituencies. So ladies and gentlemen, if you can do all that, then we are ready to be part of the national policy making. And if we are going to be part of national policy making, like what the minister said, I am reiterating it again and again, a developing country, the development thrust is rest on science and engineering and technology. So now it is time. I'm very happy that you all took this topic as the theme for this year. Now it is time for all these professional engineers and young engineers to take up this challenge and live up to that challenge. Over to you, young professional engineers. Thank you.
Thank you too, Gamini, for underscoring the value of the challenge. And of course, now on the left, what is left is for others to take it up. We'd like to invite Engineer Dr. Kamal Laksari, Vice President of IESL, to please hand over to our speaker a token of appreciation. So we move forward in our agenda, and next our focus is on people, skill development, and the rising opportunities. And our speaker is a qualified production engineer, also has a background in accountancy. He's an accountant and a qualified productivity practitioner with a master's degree in business administration. And he's the founder president of the Ceramics and Glass Council of Sri Lanka, and the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Quality and Productivity, which is just one aspect of much work that he has done. but certainly productivity has been very much his realm, and one that brought him to the limelight many years ago when he began promoting employee involvement techniques and was the pioneer in introducing the Japanese quality circles and 5S to Sri Lanka. So that's what Sunil Wijesinghe first was remembered for. But of course, he's gone on to do many things. He's currently the chairman of United Motors, Lanka PLC, and Wattawala Plantations. And previously, he has served as heading organizations of diverse types. Not least, he was chairman and managing director of Dankotua Porcelain, chairman of Merchant Credit of Ceylon, and Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka, and so on and so forth. And he was also conferred the APO, that's the Asian Productivity Organization, regional award for his work in promoting productivity in the region, the Asia-Pacific region, and was the first Lankan to receive this award, which is given only once in a few years. So let's, with delight, invite Mr. Sunil Wijesinghe, Skills Development and Arising Opportunities being the topic.
Thank you. First of all, I must add on a few things which I hadn't decided to speak earlier, particularly after what the Minister said and what Gamini said, talking about why engineers are not at the top in policy making. There was one person who said that engineers must always be on tap, but never on top. The belief is that engineers don't do very well if they are at the top. But then there was a counter-argument that if you take something like the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA program of USA, that if you had an accountant at the top, then they would never have put a man on the moon, because the accountant would have asked, what is the return on the investment? So there are arguments for and against, but anyway, let's get on to this subject. It is on national policy for productivity improvement and the role of the engineer. Now, I would like to broaden the presentation by including policy for quality, so that, because quality and productivity go hand in hand, which has been realized by some of the countries, and that's why a couple of years ago, Singapore amalgamated even the institutions which deal with quality and standardization with those involved with the productivity promotion. Now, my presentation would cover why productivity and quality is important in Sri Lanka's current context, how other countries have developed policies, the experience in Japan, the role of JUSE, that is the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, because I'm trying to draw some parallel with another association in Japan called the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, and the marvelous work they did in promoting national productivity, and how they did in Japan, how they performed in Japan's progress as a leader in high quality products at lower cost. And finally, some suggestions of what IESL could do. Now, when you talk about productivity, productivity is not a mere increase in output. Lots of people still misunderstand what productivity is. Productivity is a measure of output related to some input. It is a ratio. It is something connected with input. So just by merely increasing output, we are not improving productivity. Because sometimes in many of the discussions that I have been involved in, we talk even with some of the private sector people that they think that productivity is a nicer term for output, but it's different. We talk about labor productivity, material productivity, energy productivity, and capital productivity, but most people still are focused only on labor productivity. We talk about single factor productivity, multi-factor productivity, and total factor productivity. So productivity is a fairly complex thing, but basically, just the most important thing to remember, it is a ratio. It is something related to some input. Now, productivity probably was not so useful or not even thought of very much when the ancient kings built Ruan Verisaya or built Sigiriya. I don't think productivity was given much consideration. In fact, productivity nowhere in the world was given that consideration at that time. They say quality is a concept that is 1,000,000 years old, because even the hunter, the ancient human being, the hunters wanted to improve the quality of their hunting tools. So they were constantly in a drive to improve quality, but productivity was never in their focus. Whereas productivity really came into focus only after the Industrial Revolution and mass production and so on. So today we are very interested, whether it's construction or manufacturing or electronics or whatever it is, we are very interested in productivity. Now we are talking about productivity at national level, at industry level, at company organizational level, at departmental and unit level, and even at individual level. Because obviously at national level, you need lots of national policies to make the particular country more productive. And you can see, when I go through the presentation, you will see what other countries have done. There are lots of even economic policies, even labor policies, so many things are involved in developing a national productivity movement. At industry level, it is obvious. Some industries are undergoing major transformations. For example, the tea industry, they are thinking of how to improve productivity, because for the tea industry particularly, the labor cost is the biggest component of cost. And therefore, high labor productivity is something that they are all discussing today. Then at company and organizational level we have, and that's why we call enterprise level or organizational level productivity, and that's the expertise that many people have, because at national level it's mostly economists who will talk about the policies that are required, but at company level it is more of the enterprise level productivity experts. Then at departmental or unit level and at individual level. At individual level also the culture of the country is very important, the work ethic is important, and many people, even one Singaporean who was an expert in productivity, who came to attend a conference on productivity in Sri Lanka. Conference was starting on Monday, he arrived here on Saturday, so he had time to look around, walk around, and he said, you will never be able to improve productivity in this country because everything happens slow motion in Sri Lanka. He said even at traffic lights, even the traffic, if a constable is managing, his arm movements are in slow motion. He said in Singapore it's much faster. He said even when the light turns green, people are still taking time to take off. Everything is slow motion. Then he said he was watching TV in his room, watched a cookery program on TV, and that is also in slow motion. Whereas he said now you see Singapore's chefs, celebrity chefs on TV like Yan can cook and so on, how fast they chop and cut and do all that. And here it is very slow motion, cutting and chopping and everything. So he said, you have something wrong with your culture. Everything, whether you walk on the street, you are walking at a pedestrian crossing, or even talking at a seminar, everything happens slow motion. So that's something that we need to work on at individual level. Now when we talk about national productivity, and that's what we are really discussing today, national productivity, it's usually a measure of labor productivity. I will tell you how it is calculated. It is the GDP per employed population, not the GDP per divided by the population, but by the employed population. So that is a measure of the labor productivity of the country. So some people say that this is not the best way of judging productivity growth particularly, because sometimes due to other technological advances and so on, this can change. But lots of people look at a very low labor productivity figure and come to the conclusion that Sri Lankans are lazy. In fact, some people have gone on record saying that, and it has come in the newspapers saying that Sri Lankans are lazy. They are not working hard enough. Low productivity is so low. But why is productivity low? It's obvious from this formula, GDP per employed population. Imagine a worker on a tea estate plucking tea leaves. I don't think that tea plucker is lazy. The tea plucker plucks in very difficult weather conditions, in very difficult working environment, working very hard, but produces about 15 or 20 kilos of tea leaf, which when converted to main tea is a small amount. That is the value after one full day's work. Compare with a worker in a high-tech electronic industry in Japan, where the value of one day's work is huge. So that is how we find that the value of productivity in a country like that is much higher. Maybe the working conditions are much easier. So maybe not working as hard as a Sri Lankan tea plucker, but productivity is higher. So we have to understand why those figures are so high in those countries and so low in Sri Lanka. So why is Sri Lanka's productivity at a low level? I explained that. So in an effort to improve productivity, there are many macro level issues, industry-wide issues, company issues and so on that we have to look at. Because only a higher per capita GDP can provide a higher standard of living. And one way of getting a higher per capita GDP is by improving productivity. You can invest and do other things which economists will tell you, but one of the ways with what we have, getting higher productivity, we need a national policy for that. Now, where do we stand today? If you look at the APO statistics, we have so you can see I think Sri Lanka was somewhere very difficult to be done. Yeah, Sri Lanka is here. So this is what we call the productivity gap compared with US. So you have a lot more, it's below the zero line because that is the productivity gap. Zero is the equivalent of US, so you have a huge gap here, take the blue line. And the yellow part is what we call the employment rate, that is what proportion of the labor in the country, what proportion of the population is employed. So you will find that in some countries it is a very low figure. But now this is, you can see that in 1990, no country was ahead of US. If you take this list of countries, Singapore was the best because it had a very small gap with the US. But take 2013, Singapore has overtaken US. Singapore's productivity is higher than the US. Hong Kong is almost there. And we are here, still well below US. So this is a gap that we have to cover, and you will see that some of the countries are closing that gap very fast, like Hong Kong, Australia, Republic of China, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Turkey, and so on. Now, if you look at Sri Lanka's labor productivity level by per worker GDP, Sri Lanka is here, and Singapore is here. Again, Japan is here. Japan is here. Now, we are still about 1/3 of Japan's labor productivity. That's again because their industry is more high-tech and we are at the low level in industry. Because this is something that we have to work on, because if we continue in this way, now lots of people, I was at this Human Capital Summit just last Friday, and most of the industry is lamenting about the shortage of workers. Not only skilled workers, but also shortage of unskilled workers. But what we really should be doing, if you saw that picture of all that construction as we came in, I think we should import that labor for construction from somewhere else and develop our labor to a higher level, which could work in more electronic and high-tech industries. That is the only way we can provide a higher standard of living through better per capita GDP. So these are the countries, and you can see Nepal is right at the bottom, then is Cambodia, then is Bangladesh, then Myanmar, and so on. But my feeling is that Myanmar will jump several places with all what is happening now after more democracy in the country. Now, the labor productivity relative to US, if you take per worker GDP and per hour GDP, you can see that per worker GDP, Singapore is higher than US. But per hour, Singapore is less, which shows that Singapore's productivity really, therefore, comes from more hours of work than in comparison with US. So Sri Lanka is somewhere here. So these are the gaps that we need to look at. Now, this is again another very interesting chart. This really shows Japan in 2013. This is 2013, which is 1, index of 1. Japan in 2013, that's the labor productivity of Japan. And compared to that, where are the other countries? And also they have traced that the labor productivity that Japan had in previous years, including this period from 1885. Then you have from 1885 up to somewhere here, then came the war and all this disruption. They started from a lower level and then started up. Now, Republic of China, Hong Kong and Singapore have already overtaken Japan. Japan's 2013 level. Now, Sri Lanka is here at this level, that is 0.3 compared to Japan. And they have drawn this chart giving the figures for the different years. So in essence, what we are saying is Sri Lanka's labor productivity is similar to what Japan's labor productivity was in 1970. And if you take Cambodia and Nepal, their labor productivity is in line with Japan's labor productivity of 1920s. So that's very low. So Malaysia is here, but if you are really going to catch up, we need a lot more catching up even with Japan. Now let's look at the economic development phases. This is what economists are telling us, that there are 3 phases that economies go through. First is the factor-driven phase, where your economy is competitive because you're competitive because of cheap labor, cheap energy, plenty of raw materials in certain industries. So that is what drives that economic phase. And we went through that. Even in my experience with one industry at Dankotua Porcelain, when I got involved with that in 1990, labor was very cheap. And fuel was subsidized and very cheap. We ran our kilns on diesel. Diesel was subsidized at that time. Then plenty of raw materials. But today labor is not only expensive, but there is very difficult to get labor. In 1990, when I first went in, I found that the recruitment practices, you don't advertise because you already have in your files over 1,000 unsolicited applications to join the labor force. So what do? You conduct a test, you conduct an interview, then you shortlist and put them to do all the dirtiest work in the factory, like cleaning drains and doing all that. And those who survive, we know, are really desperate for jobs, and we recruit them. By the time I retired from the company in 2012, we were begging for people to come and work. And some of them would still, even through labor contractors, we find them, and they would come in the morning, find that this is not air-conditioned, difficult conditions. Tea break, they go out, never to come back, morning tea break. So this is how the situation changed. And the demand, because of the increasing demand, the wages went up. In 1 year, we found it so difficult that even the contract casual labor, we had to increase the wages 3 times during that year just to retain the people. So cheap labor is no longer available in Sri Lanka. Energy is no longer subsidized. Now we are running kilns on gas, and gas be per the commercial rate based on the Saudi Aramco price. Raw materials are in short supply. If you take even some of the tile industries, they find that it is much better for them to even source basic products from overseas where material is available. Because here, due to unplanned development projects and so on, lots of the best quality raw materials, they say, is under housing schemes. You can't exploit it anymore. So that phase, Sri Lanka has overtaken that phase, and according to some economists, now we are in transition to the next phase, which is efficiency-driven phase, where your competitiveness, your products are not being sold because they are the cheapest in the world, but they are being sold because they are of good quality. That's the level we are coming to. And that's where productivity, quality, and all these things take a place. So people will come to you because of your quality, because your products are no longer the cheapest in the world. There are other countries who produce the cheapest stuff. So we are now coming to that phase. And that's what we have to get ready to. Of course, the third phase is the innovation-driven phase, which we will discuss maybe in another 10 years' time. But the problem is we are very slow to migrate to the next level. Because if you look at, now I'm also part of the National Labour Advisory Council, we discuss national minimum wages, all sorts of things, and I keep on saying, this is not the answer. Answer is not fixing the national minimum wage or increasing the national minimum wage or whatever. It is to upgrade the skills so that industries will be able to pay higher wages for those increased skills. Now we are paying higher wages for the same unskills. So this is the problem. We need to work on that. So Sri Lanka has no choice. It has to move up the ladder to the next phase of economic development. And that's why I say we have to move to the next level, for which, of course, government also has a major role to play. The government is not playing the role, then somebody else has to play the role, and increasing the skill level of people. And we can increase that because many people that say that Sri Lankans are easy to train. And we all know that South Asians are very good in mathematics. So why are we teaching all these other subjects when we have the natural ability of our students to learn mathematics and science? So I will now come to the experience of Japan and Jusei. You all know what Japan was after World War II. Their economy was destroyed. But they rose up fast because engineers took up this challenge. One of the things was that because the factories were destroyed due to the air raids and so on, very few factories remained. And the government sent out a message saying, you have to make the best of these remaining factories. So please don't let the machines break down. Look after them. So maintenance became a very important factor. And that is how, from preventive maintenance and all that, today we talk about total productive maintenance, because that developed because of that. Because after that, the lowest breakdown rates in the world for machinery was Japan's. Because not only technical stuff, but also there is a story that after the government said don't let any machines break down, the workmen would go and put the wife's name on the machine. Wife's name on the machine, and look after the machine like how they look after the wife. So every morning it's given a nice cleaning and all the oiling, greasing, all the maintenance work is done on the machine. Of course, whenever I tell this story, I get various funny responses from the audience. One person asked me, Mr. Vijayasinghe, now you go and but if that factory is working in the night shift, also what happens? Because another operator is working on that machine. And so on. Then one other person said, for God's sake, don't recommend that practice for Sri Lanka, because you have a fight with the wife and come in the morning, and you have put the wife's name on the machine, you first give the machine a kick or something and start the day. So anyway, but I think the moral of the story is to look after machine, or tender loving care on the machine to prevent breakdowns. And that's why they came up with all this autonomous maintenance. So now in my one of the first industries that I worked in at Tire Corporation as an industrial engineer, I used to see whenever the machine breaks down for the slightest thing, a chit goes to maintenance, and maintenance will send someone to look at it. But just having the machine stop for a long time. Whereas the Japanese method is basic maintenance is taught to the machine operator himself. That's what the concept of autonomous maintenance. And the operator, therefore, can attend to something which, if he cannot, then he refers it to maintenance. But in most of the Japanese factories, you don't write chits and all that. There is a light that burns saying the machine is stopped and maintenance people will come running. So one of the things they did was that. Anyway, the formation of the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, that was one of the major highlights. I will tell you what they did. Then the Jusei's role in using statistical methods to corporate management. Now that's again, I think something even Gamini was touching upon. When, after the war, the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, General MacArthur, was like running the country, he realized that the Japanese had certain innate abilities, the habits and so on, which will promote productivity. They are very hardworking, team-oriented, very proud of the work they do, and all that was there. But they were weak in using mathematics and statistics for quality control. So what did General MacArthur do? He told the US government, please send an expert to teach the Japanese all this statistical quality control and so on. And that's when Dr. Edward Deming came, and thereafter he was followed by Joseph Juran. And then a Japanese engineer, Kaoru Ishikawa, took up the challenge in Japan itself and blended all these statistical methods with those habits of the Japanese people, and that became a very powerful method of improving quality and productivity in Japan. So today, JUSE is the center of excellence in quality control. So the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers. And it was the JUSE that introduced the Deming Award. Deming Award to recognize industries which have excelled in total quality management practices in Japan. And it was after all that the Japanese products became synonymous with quality, that American industries were faced with a huge problem because nobody was buying their stuff. They were buying all imported things from Japan, whether it was electronics, TVs or radio or cars or whatever it is. And there was a huge movement in US to prevent Japanese goods coming into the country. They were asking the government, have some protection because Japanese goods are coming into the country and everybody is buying that and our industries are closing down, so prevent this. But instead, one of the secretaries of the Ministry of Industry looked at it and he found that the reason is that Japanese goods are of such good quality. Earlier it had a very bad reputation, but now they are of good quality and people are buying those things because of the good quality. So he saw that even the Deming Awards of Japan had made a huge difference. And he started a new award. Of course, he died in an accident, so he couldn't finish it, but then later on the government did it and named that award after him. That is the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. And the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, not only, it's an award that is not only selecting the winner, but also very comprehensive guidelines so that if you follow those guidelines, whether you apply for the award or not, you are a winner. Because it's very comprehensive guidelines. So it leads the companies to adopt all these good practices. So other countries also copied it, the European Federation Quality Model and so many things developed after that, and even Singapore Quality Award. Even Sri Lanka has the National Productivity Award and a National Quality Award, Business Excellence Awards and so on. So these award schemes are good. And it was JUSE that introduced quality circles because again they found that the situation in the US was different. Japanese people were very educated. They wanted to participate in the work, and if you give them some knowledge, that they would work on it and improve the processes and the productivity and quality and so on, and that is how this concept of quality circle started. Whereas they say American productivity was mainly due to, if you take labor productivity in the primitive industries of those days, initially it was due to the fact that most of the workers were migrant workers in the US. And in one factory you will have a Mexican here, someone from Brazil somewhere else, and from Japan next to him, and from India next to him, and all these different races. So why were they so productive, the factories? Because they couldn't talk to each other, because none of them knew English. So instead of talking to each other, they were working, and productivity was very high in Japanese industry. But in American industry, in Japan, they did a different approach, because the American system was all manuals. That's why they say even still in some industries like McDonald's or something, there is precise instructions when to turn the bun from one side to the other side and all that. Whereas in Japan, you ask the workers to use their brains. In fact, soon after the war, lots of Americans came and started introducing certain American management concepts which didn't work. One was that in America they motivate the people by the boss asking the employees about the subordinates, family. How is Barbara getting on, or something like that. So they introduced those management concepts to Japan, and disaster. Because in Japan, you never ask a man about his wife. So you don't ask, how is Michiko doing or something like that. That man thinks, my God, this man is, having some funny ideas. So they had to adopt. So Jusei was in the forefront of creating new management methods which will suit Japan. And that's how things like quality circles, where they were taught certain problem-solving techniques, and that's why even Kaoru Ishikawa came up with this Ishikawa's diagram, or the cause and effect diagram. And systematically they were taught how to look at a problem, not to jump into conclusions and so on, but a very systematic, methodical way of handling quality problems. So they also published a lot of QC material in Japanese, and they had radio programs and TV programs on productivity and quality. And even when I was involved in the National Productivity Decade and that program under the Ministry of Industries at one time, when Honorable C.V. Gunaratne was minister, I was trying to get even SLBC, TV, Rupavahini and all that, and they said, we won't do any free programs, even for the president, they said. I said, this is a national program to promote these quality and productivity techniques, but finally we had to pay something and get some program done on ITA. Then Jusei also got involved in the quality month, because they started a quality month in Japan. November is the quality month, where every industry has to fly the quality flag. They have to give some lectures to the entire workforce on about quality, and competitions for the workers, including their children. Quality poster competitions, essay competitions, and so on quality and productivity. So they sort of, with all this, they sort of brainwash people. It became an obsession for the Japanese. Productivity and quality all the time was almost an obsession. So then there was also the Japan Productivity Center. That was also a long established one, 1955. They also merged with a thing called the JPC's, another organization called SCD, which was the Society for Economic Development, and then they merged and became JPC, SCD, and now it is just JPC. So the membership is of companies, unions, organizations, and individuals, and the three guiding principles also to promote more employment, to have more labor management cooperation and economic development in general. So they also had various awards, the Japan Productivity Award and so on, and they also did a lot of promotions. Then Kaoru Ishikawa was again an engineer in Japan, and he was a very famous person, and he was involved with, he was also a professor in some universities in engineering, And in 1950, he developed some basic QC courses. He introduced statistical methods and design of experiments. He was involved with the Deming Committee for giving the Deming Award. He's the one who designed the cause and effect diagram. So if you attend any of these quality circle presentations, you will find that they talk about cause and effect diagram or Ishikawa diagram. And he was one of the lecturers for the radio programs on quality control. In 1958, he obtained his PhD in engineering, and his thesis was on cold sampling, and he did a lot of work on sampling methodology. And he produced, he was also the head of the editorial board which produced the magazine called Genba QC, which was in Japanese. Genba in Japanese is the factory, so these or the workplace. So Genba to QC means it is QC for the factory. He did many consultant assignments overseas and introduced quality circles to Taiwan and so on, and that's how it spread from Japan to Taiwan, Korea, those three countries, and then it spread to all the other countries, and quality circles spread to Europe and US and all these places also. Even in US it was quite popular, because when I was even at TAC Corporation as industrial engineer, I was liaising with at that time we had this collaboration with BF Goodrich of USA, and the US people are very prompt as soon as they realized that, because I had just returned from Japan and I was trying out all these quality circles and things, and when they got to know about it, they sent me a whole lot of material about successful case studies and failures in the US, which was very useful. And so Kaoru Ishikawa also published many manuals. Then the role of the APO is that Japan realized that Asia was lagging behind because of low productivity. And they initiated an intergovernment body called Asian Productivity Organization in 1961. Sri Lanka joined it in 1966, but for which Sri Lanka was expected to have some institutional framework. So they started a thing called Management Development and Productivity Center, which some of you might remember. And then it became the National Institute of Management. But the moment MDPC, which stood for Management Development and Productivity Center, and they were doing a lot of productivity related work, the moment it became National Institute of Management, they started doing IT courses and marketing courses and forgot about productivity. In fact, I said that in one article when the government has started the National Productivity Year. I wrote a very strong article to the newspapers giving all this history and criticizing all the National Productivity Year, and I got a call from the Secretary of the Ministry early morning. After reading the article, I thought, trouble now, he is going to sue me for all what I have said in this article. But instead he said, well, instead of sitting on a side and criticizing, join us and become a consultant to us. And but he said he has to get cabinet approval to pay me a princely sum of 10,000 rupees a month to be the consultant. So NIBM became, but NIBM was not doing much. So there was the acronym NIBM was translated by some, as usual, Sri Lankans are very clever at it. They said Nikang inna minissu, because consultants, they are not having much work. Then they strengthened the organization with a better board of directors, ex officio people, and so on, and made it National Institute of Business Management. Of course, then there was a more supervisory board and so on. So then people said, now it is Nikang in Barry Minissu. So NIBM is still, I'm still involved with the NIBM and the NSBM, which is a subsidiary of NIBM, and I shouldn't be criticizing NIBM. But NIBM is doing a very good job of work now, and NSBM, because I'm on the academic board of governors also, and they will open their new green university at Pitipana in October, which is a fantastic state-of-the-art university. Later, the NPO shifted from place to place because when NIBM was really not doing much, and we started the National Productivity Unit under the Ministry of Industries, they took over the APO liaison work. But then it shifted from place to place, first under Labor Ministry, then under separate Labor Productivity Ministry, now it is under Public Administration Ministry, so they are just kicked around here and there. Whereas, what I say is that APO had a very, very clear vision of what it should be doing and how it should take the Asian countries, the member Asian countries, to a higher level through productivity. So, unfortunately, in the early years of APO in Sri Lanka, even the people who were sent for training by APO were selected in a different way. Now, I was for a long time involved with productivity, but when they selected a 10-member team to go for the productivity conference in Malaysia, I was not selected. And I went and told my boss, and he had a hearty laugh and he said, "You have totally misunderstood the way government selects people for the training courses. It has nothing to do with what you have been doing about the subject. If you have been a good boy or something like that, then when someone has to be rewarded, he is going whether he knows to spell productivity or not." And anyway, fortunately the board agreed to pay for my thing, and I went as the paid participant. And most of the others, even when one of the gentlemen from Sri Lanka was asked to chair one panel discussion, he started by saying, "I don't know anything about productivity, but we are having a major terrorist problem in Sri Lanka. So shall we discuss about terrorism?" And I was so ashamed. So this is why we have not got the full benefit of being a member organization of the APO. And so other countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, India, Republic of China, not EOC, Republic of China, Republic of Korea, have separate statutory bodies. They are separate bodies. Whereas Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Iran, and are government departments. So you can see the powerful countries, the economically powerful countries, they have taken productivity seriously, and they are having separate bodies. Sri Lanka is not even a government department. In Sri Lanka, the National Productivity Secretariat is under the ministry, now under public administration. So high growth Asian economies have a powerful statutory body with strong boards and with a lot of ex officio people and so on. And whereas the Sri Lanka's Productivity Secretariat has no supervisory or monitoring or advisory body. So this is why we are lagging behind. So Singapore's Spring is, they call it Spring because that is for Singapore productivity, innovation and growth. That's how Spring is made out of. They have very powerful mission and vision statement. Malaysia is a very powerful body, and I'm told it's directly under the Prime Minister and involved in many interventions to improve productivity and quality. Philippines, development economy of the Philippines is originally established by presidential decree to promote national development and productivity and to promote competitiveness. India's National Productivity Council, established in 1958, found a member of APO and so on. And so this is what other countries are doing, and we are still lagging behind. And so what needs to be done? My suggestion is to create a cell for productivity and quality improvement within IESL. So IESL can take a lead because there is a vacuum. There is no one. There are some associations which are doing it, but a powerful institution like IESL can do this. Promote more statistics-based QC techniques, because even when you go for a quality conference in Sri Lanka, hardly any statistics presentations. But you go to a quality conference in India or Pakistan, there are such high-level statistics methodology that is being discussed. We need more publications. We need more we need to promote standardization. In lots of other countries, standardization has been promoted, but we are still very weak. Finally, we managed, the Sri Lanka Standards Institution managed to get the calendar standardized to international standard. But even the date and time and things like that, we can't get it standardized. So why are we still using AM and PM when most of the other countries are using the 24-hour clock? That is why in a recent public exam, the one examiner mixed up the AM and PM and he gave in papers in the morning when it should have been given in the afternoon. If you use the 24-hour clock, it's very simple, that would never have happened. Promote this quality month concept. More national events including a productivity summit. This Institution of Engineers can promote a productivity summit, productivity and quality summit even. So we already have a national productivity policy which nobody looks at. We have a national quality policy and I think they were trying to revise it. We need a comprehensive national competitiveness policy incorporating quality and productivity and a strategic plan to put it into action, and engineers could take a lead role in this exercise. So those are my suggestions, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sunil, for your energizing presentation, which was quite often provocative, even as it was humorous, and the insights you brought in were very, very good and deeply appreciated. Some of it reminded me of a remark made by the late Lalit Athuratmudali. And it was at a time of transition, and in the broadcast industry, which I had a part in, there were changes for the worse, and there was a kind of a degradation of the industry that was taking place. And he just happened to ask me, so how are things? And I, in a complaining mood, declared what I felt was not quite right. And he said, I'm surprised that you didn't know that we are in an era where we cultivate square pegs in round holes. This is the way. So you reminded me a great deal of that. Now we would like to invite to the stage to hand over a token of appreciation to Mr. Sunil Wijayasinghe, Engineer Professor Niranjali Ratnayaka, please. Thank you very much, Sunil. So many other challenges that have been placed before this audience by our two previous speakers. And just before we move into our next, we have a message, and that's on screen.
Introducing. It's what Mercedes-Benz has been doing since 1886. Introducing the world to the first automobile. Introducing over 100,000 patented breakthroughs. Introducing innovations in performance, safety, design, and pure driving pleasure. This year, our 130th to be exact, we're introducing an unprecedented array of coupes, sedans, SUVs, convertibles, and roadsters. Introducing the youngest, most dynamic lineup in the world, all from the car company that needs no introduction. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Thank you very much for your attention. So we got pretty close to our next presenter, who is the Benz company man, you might say, or put it another way, Diesel and Motor Engineering, PLC. And Mr. Ranjit Pandithagai is also a member of the Institute of Engineers of Germany and has had a long association with DEMO, which is the set of initials we are most comfortable with. Since 1973, he has been part of that organization, and as of 2004, he has served as its chairman and managing director. And Ranjit's here now, and he will be speaking on a very interesting topic, which kind of is a lead on from the previous two, that is international trade solutions to boost the economy. Mr. Ranjit Pandithagai.
Still good morning, members of the Institute of Engineers, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I chose a topic maybe not directly relevant to the engineers, but I want to talk just from my gut, future growth opportunities in Sri Lanka, concept especially for engineers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to speak among fellow engineers at the National Engineering Conference 2016. Being a company who takes pride in representing the best engineered brands around the world, DEMO truly understands the importance of engineers and the role of engineers in developing nations. As the chairman of DEMO for over 7 decades, we have been employing engineers in our business sectors of automotive, power, health, building technologies, marine, construction, etc. It is a great source of pride that engineering is being increasingly seen as critical to the development of our nation, but we still have a long way to go. Well, 7 years ago, we were able to secure the peace of country. Now we have to ensure its prosperity. So let's look at few areas that I believe truly utilizing Sri Lanka's key strategic strengths. Let's start with logistics. Sri Lanka is perfectly positioned in the world map. We are right at the center of the maritime Silk Route, connecting the east and the west. We can and should be the logistic hub of Asia. The sector now accounts for about 11% of the GDP in Sri Lanka economy. But this has the potential to be Sri Lanka's truly vehicle of growth. To achieve a world-class and efficient logistics system to compete against Singapore and Dubai, it is important to develop a soft and physical infrastructure. We need to invest more in the world-class facilities, human resources, and technology, and the system that drives success of logistics. Proper custom procedures and guidelines that allow logistic operators to carry out their operations smoothly and transparently is also a key factor. Now, how can the engineers get involved in this? I think, especially in the whole logistic hubs, the young engineers have a very big role to play. Another area I would like to talk about is tourism. Although there is an uptrend in tourism since the end of the war, we are perhaps not leveraging our most significant resources, our rich culture and history. Now, I think Arun was talking about when he spoke about all the engineering feats that we had in Sigiriya, etc. Now, why not the young engineers develop some apps and do in-depth studies how Sigiriya looked like 1,000 years ago, and you can develop that app and give it to the tourists who come in. And also the tourist board, I think, without just only showing our beaches and etc., go into the engineering feats of it. We could invite international engineers, institutes like universities to come and especially have that type of tourism coming in. I'm very proud to say we promoted the university Monotua boys to go on that Silverstone. It's not a race. They developed a vehicle with my engineers and took part in this Silverstone formula racing. It's not the person who comes first on the design, the development, etc. And we should be very proud. These young guys produced something. First entry, they brought back 3 trophies to Sri Lanka. And I was told many universities have come and tapped them and asked, they want to give them scholarships to join them to do research. And this is one of my dreams. Now, we want to take it from there. Look at Bangalore. Mercedes-Benz have more than 2,000 people in Bangalore doing research. Why can't Robert Bosch, we are agents for Bosch also, they patent 11 patents every working day, and most of their research now done in Bangalore. Why can't Sri Lanka can offer very much more than Bangalore? So this is where I think we should, I'm trying my best to, because we are agents for Mercedes-Benz and Siemens, to speak to them and see, develop some research centers and give opportunities to young engineers to do research here. We must leverage that. With more than 2016 years of history of 8 cities in Sri Lanka having a UNESCO World Heritage, we need careful planning and creative partnership, strategic alliance, help us to use power and culture tourism to benefit. Right. You see, I have been looking at, when you look at tourism at Trincomalee, it's one of the most largest natural harbors in the world. It's ideally situated within close proximity to cultural triangle and national park. This would ideal for cruise ships to operate who carry over 3,000 affluent tourists and giving them time during their stopover. You see, so many cruise ships are moving around Sri Lanka. Some of them come to Colombo city. What can you do in Colombo? Even to go to Kandy, it takes about 5 to 6 hours. If we develop Trinco Harbor, even in the monsoon time, that harbor is safe and not so turbulent. We can attract these tourists to come. The cruise ship business is about $100 billion. If we develop that properly, we can attract these tourists to come here, and from there, the roads are very good. We can bring them to Polonnaruwa, Sigiriya, Anuradhapura, and the Minneria National Park also. And this is where I think the tourism board should do it, and our young engineers can play a big part in this. Finally, I'd like to mention about retaining our human capital. Sri Lanka has for a long period of time lost considerable number of our youth, annual to foreign employment opportunities doesn't exist here. Investment in their education from grade 1 to university level estimated to be about rupees 5 million per person, and with thousands migrating, hundreds of millions are lost with no contribution to Sri Lankan economy. Now, it's a shame, these young engineers, when they graduate, few things are there. I think everybody wants to have a car, and this becomes beyond their reach. Even to buy a small car, less than 1,000 cc car, is beyond their reach. When once they get married and get settled down, they are looking at a house that is also beyond their reach. And this is where I think the government should look at how to retain these people. Not only the job satisfaction, the other things have to be organized so that people could be retained in Sri Lanka. Now my son, he went to Australia to study. When he graduated, my wife and I went and bought him a small Mitsubishi. But 6 months later, he wrote to me, he phones me and said, "Tati, I have bought a C-class AMG. I thought he has broken a bank." I said, how do you manage? No, I can lease rental. My lease rental is so $150 a week or something like that. He could manage. After about 6 months, he said, "Tati, I bought a house." Hey, how do you do that? Again, leasing, and this is affordable. So this country should seriously look at keeping our talent here by finding solutions like this to retain them in Sri Lanka. Well, the other thing is this whole 5-year exam for the small children. And as Minister Amanugam said also, what happens is everybody wants to come into Colombo, and in these rural areas, there's no chance of doing science education. And when they get through their 5-year exam, they are brought to Colombo, and they lose the common touch in their village, and what remains in the village is all so-called people who are not ready to join the productivity movement of Sri Lanka. And Sunil and I was at this last week's employment summit. All of us are crying that we don't have skilled people. So skill development is one of the most important things, but why can't we get them? Because in the rural area already we have given them a certificate to say that you all are not fit enough to join the productive movement of Sri Lanka. We have more than 1.4 million three-wheel drivers, but at Demos or in our industry we can't get painters, welders, mechanics. We have our own engineering, our apprentice school. When we started 25 years ago, there were more than thousands of applicants. Now hardly we get them, and we have to, mostly university graduates come, unfortunately from the arts faculty, etc., because this course that we are running is recognized in New Zealand and Australia. So it's more or less a CSR project. When they finish their course in 2 years, little bit of practical training, they move. In fact, in Melbourne, we have a DMU alumni also. Well, I think when you are talking about engineers, unfortunately, the recognition a lot of speakers were talking. Now look at the private sector. To come up the ladder in the private sector, if you are an accountant, a marketeer, very easy. Very rarely you get engineers as chairmen or board members. Sunil is one of the few. And I'm happy to say that at Demos we have at least 4 engineers in our board. I think a lot of speakers have been speaking. I think engineers, we have to extend more. I feel they are more valuable in a board, not to undermine the accountants and others, but you all can play a very big role. Before I end up, I would like to say a small thing that I heard the other day. A heart specialist bought his car to the engineer to repair. And the engineer said, look here, when I repair your engine here, I paid only a few rupees. But when you repair a human engine, you charge so much. Why is that difference? So the heart specialist said, look here, can you repair an engine when it is running? So the engineer, after some time, asked the doctor, I can repair an engine once it's dead, but can you repair an engine once it's dead? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you too, Mr. Panditagay, for the many ideas and suggestions, and there is so much to think about and perhaps activate in the fullness of time. Or maybe we don't have time. The national anthem says, Yamu Yamu Vi Nopama. And Sunil Wijayasekara was saying we are a bit late already. We'd like to invite on stage President-elect of the Institution of Engineers, Engineer Jayavilal Meegoda, on stage to hand over a token of appreciation to our speaker, Mr. Ranjit Panditagay. Thank you once again. And now all of our presenters, that's Gamini, Sunil, and Mr. Panditagay, will shortly be accommodated on stage for a panel discussion. Just before that, we would like to invite your attention. We have something on screen.
Sri Lanka is changing. Its landscapes, its people and opportunities. A tangible and enduring change. Marga Engineering is at the forefront of this transformation. As we attempt to converge our ethos, collective resources and human technology into a beacon that bridges equity and furthers human progress. 30 years ago, M.G. Kularatna founded Marga Engineering with the vision to become a model construction company in the region. As a model construction company in the region, our work has revitalized all major segments of the Sri Lankan economy. From Jeffrey Bawa's Lighthouse to the National Construction Award-winning Blue Waters and several hotels along the west coast of Sri Lanka, we are privileged to have contributed to the upliftment of the hotel sector of Sri Lanka and the neighboring Maldives. We have been the constructor of several key hospitals, which have added a new dimension to the healthcare sector of Sri Lanka. From Colombo's Lanka hospitals to the Neuro Trauma Center of the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. During the last decade, we have brought to life nearly 2,000 kilometers of roads to Sri Lanka's road network. These roads have connected villages, brought schools and hospitals nearer, revived the movement of harvests, and broadened job opportunities. Our work in several large-scale water projects enabled us to be recognized as the best constructor in the water supply sector by the National Water Supply and Drainage Board. The trust we have earned from our stakeholders have manifested through our platinum rating in Sri Lanka's Corporate Accountability Index and our environmental stewardship through Sri Lanka's first Green Award in the public and private sector. Today, Marga is home to a community of over 14,000 employees as well as their families. This community, the true source of our success, comprises the most experienced construction managers in the country, a team of 350 engineers, together with designers, administrators, technicians and craftspeople, the heartbeat of a constantly learning, caring and growing organization. Sri Lanka is at the outset of her greatest mission, our quest for sustained growth. Marga's commitment to this mission has been unwavering, as our pioneering efforts in the Northern Province and Eastern Province bear witness. We have connected the furthest ends of Sri Lanka, including Putlam with Trincomalee and Mathura with Akrepattu. Our technology is cutting edge, yet centered around our most precious resource, people. In bringing to life lasting social infrastructure, we believe that our vision is one that engages our future generations, while sparking renewed purpose within all of us, to change lives for the better and realize our aspirations for a truly united Sri Lanka. Marga, changing landscapes, changing lives.
Our grateful thanks to Marga for being the gold sponsor, in as much as Demo has been, or rather is, our platinum sponsor. Now we're getting the right kind of furniture on stage, which usually would be the kind of seating that will put people to sleep immediately. Okay, so the panel discussion will be led by Engineer Dr. Tilak Siyambalapitiya, who is an alumnus of the University of Moratuwa, and obviously his background is in electrical engineering because he has served a long while and with distinction with the Ceylon Electricity Board. And his PhD is also in electrical machines, and he read for his PhD at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And he has served with many task forces of government institutions or organizations as an energy consultant, that being his specialty. And he is a founder member of the Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association. He's a chartered engineer and a member of the Institute of Engineers of Sri Lanka. And so, with pleasure now, we invite your attention as our panel convenes. That's all of our previous speakers and moderated by Engineer Dr. Tilak Siyambalapitiya. So may we invite you on stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome to the panel discussion. In the first session, there were 4 presentations. I propose that we include the minister's presentation also in this panel discussion, although the Honorable Minister is not here. I would not try to summarize everything that everybody said, But just to pick on a few points, the minister definitely threw a challenge to engineers. So much to say, try and join the government. Come to the parliament. I hope they would reserve a few seats for us. But how do we look at that challenge? Because subsequently we heard from, in fact, the two subsequent speakers, how the fast developing countries have used the technocrats. If I pick a couple of ideas from Engineer Gamini Gunawardena, he in fact frightened us to say that our days are numbered. And he more or less preached that we should move from being engineers to technocrats. Mr. Sunil Vijayasinghe, covering productivity and quality, I think in the first part of his presentation, the thrust was that we are now in the efficiency-driven phase of our development. And of course, you highlighted that the productivity secretariat is not properly housed, and throwing the challenge to IESL virtually to start a new stream, perhaps through a cell, focusing on productivity and quality. Mr. Ranjit Pandithage, you covered a variety of topics and challenges focusing on logistics, specialized services to the tourist industry, and the importance of research and being a home for the research activity that's going on in the country or in the region, and most importantly, the importance of retaining human capital. So with that summary, let me open up the forum for discussion, and may I please request you to use a microphone, and please give us an indication that you want to ask a question. Briefly introduce yourself, and also be very brief in your discussions or in your question. Please speak to the point, and as much as possible direct your question to one of the three panelists. And if you have a question for the Honorable Minister, perhaps we will take note of it. But certainly, even such a question can be discussed. So over to you. Yes, please.
It's okay. The question to, my name is Gunaratna. Question to Sunil Vijayasinghe. Very simple example I am taking for this productivity matter. One Sri Lankan, say, working here, productivity low, same Sri Lankan man go to Korea, after his settlement time, very short period, his productivity is equivalent to the Korean people productivity. That means something wrong with the mechanism in training, giving all those things. As he suggested, other professional bodies has to give some training and quality circles whatsoever. That is something wrong, not with the people. People are not the lazy. Many organizing companies making profit due to unpaid facilities and wages. Profit defined as this thing. Because you take any construction site, they don't have any facilities, but the owners getting profit. Because without giving any training or proper productivity, quality improvements, nothing. Therefore, same person, same Sri Lankan, I will come back to my first beginning, same person go to the Korea, he give the high productivity. But to introduce these people as lazy people, that's wrong.
Thank you very much. Shall we take a couple of other questions before I get the panel to respond? I don't see any hands going up. Yes, please. Let us listen to Professor Pereira, and thereafter you at the back.
Thank you very much. My question again is also about productivity. Now, productivity, the comparisons you made was productivity, because you mentioned against labor or some other raw material or whatever it is, against labor, which is the most common, productivity per labor hour or labor day or labor month, we are measuring, from what I understood, in terms of dollar value addition. And I guess one reason why our productivity is low is where Singapore, US, they are going for high valued products, manufacturing of high valued products. Now we are plucking tea and that's not a high valued product. So how can you get, the comparison I think is not quite correct. And also, are you advocating that we should go for high value added products, maybe electronics area, some other area like that, rather than doing the traditional methods of production? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a question right at the back. Have you forgotten your question? Hello? Yes. Yes, please. Need to get a mic there.
I am Chandra Das, engineer with 45 years experience in various government bodies. First of all, I like to mention I am very much pleased to hear that finally the Engineering Council Act is going to be passed. So next, I would like to mention it to pass this message to the Honorable Minister. Now, they have fully realized now the engineers are needed at the decision-making level. But my suggestion to the political leadership is, it is up to the political party leaders to do this. Engineers by nature, they will not come forward because they are better paid and they are very much comfortable in their positions. So it is up to the political leadership, especially the political party leaders, to select a few guys from our engineers. Unless it is done, now for example, he mentioned in China 75% of the decision makers are engineers. In Singapore, out of 18 cabinet ministers, 8 are engineers. Now they are the political leadership select, handpick. They do the headhunting and select a few engineers. That is the way. I mean, if they expect us to go and contest election or go to this thing, that will never be done. So that is the necessary thing. Not only the engineers, in general, they need professionals. Now, not only engineers, I mean, we have seen how the country is very poorly managed at this moment. It is so badly managed, we have to mention it to the political leadership. I don't think any sensible person likes the way things are going now. But if it is properly managed, I think within 1 year, we can make this country come to even the first 20 countries in the world. That assurance we can give, but let us give a chance. That is what I have to mention it to the Honorable Minister. Kindly pass this message. I am Chandra Das.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandra Das. I think we'll take these 2 questions and the third proposal as well. Mr. Sunil Vijayasinghe.
Yes. I will probably first respond to Professor Pereira's question. Now, what I was trying to draw was that the way that productivity is measured is GDP divided by the employed workforce. So naturally, the result is that countries which have higher level industries, which higher value of production, will obviously get a higher value. And answering the second question also at the same time, I specifically said that the inference that if your productivity is low, that people are lazy is wrong. It's not because people are lazy that your figure is low. It is because that is the type of industry you have, and your GDP therefore is low, so the result of that formula is low. So I never said that Sri Lankans are lazy. So the fact is that because we are going from a factor-driven economy where now labor is in short supply, labor is more expensive, and also with this level of productivity, you can't afford a good standard of living to the people. My suggestion is, and this is what most economists also say, that we have to migrate to the higher level industries, not this primitive type of low-level industries, but high-level industries, which will produce higher value, and therefore you can produce give higher wages, and your standard of living goes up. Why do we have such huge battles once in 2 years for the wage negotiations of plantations? Because wages are a high percentage of your total cost in the plantation. So even a 10% increase of wages will be a huge impact on the plantations. So it's very sensitive. When you have industries where your labor cost component is high, it's a huge problem. Whereas if you have a high-tech industry and your labor is only 5 or 10%, it's not so sensitive to the labor cost. So that is why we have to go to that level. Then answering that other question about Sri Lankans working in Korea, working better. But it works both ways. Because what I have found is there are some Japanese industries in Sri Lanka where they say that the productivity of their Sri Lanka factory is higher than their Japanese factory. Productivity in the sense of a physical output, not the monetary output, right? That is higher in Sri Lanka. So that means their output in terms of pieces is higher per hour in the Sri Lankan factory than in their Japanese factory, because they say the Sri Lankan people are, of course, they have a younger workforce here than in Japan, but they are working the same way. So there is, it is only the circumstances probably in other countries. We see even in construction, people go out there to the Middle East and work much better. So as you rightly said, may have been, I don't know what the reason is, but maybe the circumstances, maybe the facilities and so many things. But also there are so many other things, because they want to somehow work hard, earn more and come back. Same way with imported labor. Now there is imported labor into this country. Even imported labor, what do they want? They want to work as much as possible, work hard and go. At any level, sometimes there are companies which have executive level, managerial level people working here. There are many Indian people who are working here. They don't even go for anywhere for the weekend because they have nowhere else to go. So they work hard. Of course, they are given their swimming pools and everything. They work. But a Sri Lankan will have the family here. They will want to go out for the weekend. But whereas the executives from India who are working here, they don't need to do that. So this is a different set of circumstances that make people work less or more.
Thank you very much. Engineer Gamini Gunawardena and Mr. Manithage, would you like to make a comment on the third question, Mr. Chandradas's, about engineers participating more heavily? I would hesitate to say in politics, but in national policy making, which is really the theme of the Senate.
Can I have your permission to, before that, to add something to what Sunil said as well?
Yes, certainly.
One question Professor Perra asked is that because our income levels are low, this type of, the industries like the tea and all that, the GDP naturally goes down, which what Sunil also confirmed. Now, just to share with you another experience, there's a Sri Lankan professor who is working in Japan, how he has done. This, I know first-hand information. He purchased 3 containers of Kotalahimbudu. He did it legally through the legal process, and for which he paid 30 million rupees. And he told me personally, out of these 30 million rupees, he has worked with a foreign drug manufacturer, taken it back to India and to Japan, and out of that 30 million, he has made 3 billion yen. Now you see the value addition? Whereas, if you look at even in Sri Lankan context, our mineral sands, what do? We just send it in raw form. So how can we expect to get the value addition? So if you want to get it to the higher level of GDP, we certainly should look at how we can give value-added products. So this is what he was also trying to say, that, reduce the labor component and try and go for more value-adding products. So that is just add-on to what Sunil explained. Then talking about Mr. Chandra Das's response, yes, it is very welcome, but you have to understand that nothing will come easy and we have to fight for. Now, for example, if you start for, initially we had a Senate. What happened? The governments, whatever it is, the successive government, they abolished that Senate, but the Senate was to bring in the intellectual capital and to independently validate the political decision that is being taken. Now, instead of Senate, they formed, I was told, that OPA. But now what has happened? OPA has become, if you are being self-critical, all of us are members of OPA. OPA has become just another club. Right? So are they doing their job? That is one side. On the other hand, as professional organizations, what have we done? There is a national list in every government, 25 seats. And at the end, are these professionals those who can give intellectual contributions? So why can't, as professional organizations, we can rise up and we can make a lobby and say, when you appoint through the national list, it should be a professional of certain standing. So I don't think anything will come easy. We can make all this pleading and all that. With practical experience, we know how difficult it was for us to even to get initially a meeting with the respective ministers. But when we show our power in the legitimate way, then only they will respond. I think we must get into policy making, for which we have to do our part. Don't expect anything that will come to us on a platter.
Fine, thank you very much.
Well,
Any response? Yes.
Getting back to productivity without taking into GDP and all this, what I feel is the low productivity sometimes starts with the public transport system. Now just imagine anybody coming to visit at Demos who is traveling about 10 kilometers by public transport. He has to spend at least 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And he's mentally drained once he gets into his workplace, till he really gets it going. By about 3 o'clock, now he must think whether I will catch the bus or the train to get back. This must be one of the reasons that we'll have to do research and see one of the low productivity. And also, I don't know why, we can't put the clock back at least 2 hours. You see, most of the workplaces are not air conditioned. And definitely it will come. When I joined Demos, only my father and the German guy had a sharing air conditioner. Today every clerk has an air conditioned room. But the workshops are not air conditioned. We are trying to put fans, and in another 10 years' time, even our workshops will be air conditioned. But you have to make it conducive for people to get productivity. I think anybody working in a workshop after 2 o'clock, I don't think you can expect, for it's too hot, so humid. I think if you put the clock back by 2 hours, then it will help us. So coming back to Mr. Chandra's, I think the young engineers should change the political culture of this country altogether. Don't wait till the politicians calls you to, established parties call you to join the mainstream. You all start a party and get up and say the president should be paid 10 million rupees a month, give him 2-3 cars, the prime minister 8 million rupees, only 20 ministers, pay them about another 5 million. Right, anybody getting caught for bribery and corruption should be taken into custody, and the private sector who gives bribes, their establishments should be confiscated. We must start a different culture altogether, especially the young people. Then we can change the political scenario. As it is, I can't see anything happening. All what we always crave is for, give us a level playing field. No favors. We don't want any favors from politicians. Just giving us the level playing field will do the job.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pandithage. Before we move on to the next round of questions, I think there are three key issues that are coming out. The first one is the engineers' representation in the legislature. And Mr. Gunawardena brought in an idea, what IESL could do. Then also the theme of today's conference is the voice of engineers in policy. So what is IESL doing to make themselves heard? Or is it always a case of being either passive or responding to a situation? And thirdly, Mr. Vijay Singh brought in a suggestion that IESL hosts a productivity cell and start promoting that stream of the profession which is definitely related to engineering. I would like to hear from IESL President what IESL and the Council thinks, or from the President-elect, about these three specific ideas.
Actually, as IESL President, I will agree with your suggestions. So actually, IESL has to do a lot for the engineering profession, but so far, due to the certain reasons, we are not doing that. Regarding the involvement of the engineers for the legislation, the commissions and other things, actually we suggested our names, but politicians are not considered our proposals, our nominees. So we know certain reasons. We understand from the various sources, because here, that as most of the administrators, they are trying to play their role in against the engineers, technicians, and other talented people. Because as a government servant, I was there in 36 years. So at that time, we have faced a lot of problems. Because when you work in the regions, so our engineers are playing a very good role, especially as our minister said that, irrigation sector, very silent role we are playing, right? So rice production is in this level mainly because of the irrigation engineers. But nobody is responsive. When we are in the regions, all the politicians respect to us. Even they praise our work in the parliament. But once you come to national level, they are not allow us to do what we want. So that's one reason. Other thing is, among the engineers also, we must have some sort of unity, right? So I understand that even engineers are not much united to get those things to convince the government. Even now these days, I can say that we are actually with the difficulties all because of past presidents, all council members. They do the last 12 years hard work. Finally, our will is in the parliament. But there are certain people arguing with us various things. They are trying to interpret the terms and other things. So there are like that so many things. So actually, first thing is, I think as engineers, we must get one voice and then convince the government. I think it is not a difficult thing. So that's the way I think we have to get win our position in the.
Fine. Thank you very much. You know, being the theme of the conference, being the voice of engineers in national policy, so I think we all should have something to take home from this conference. It's not to just spend one day here, but listen to issues and listen to what politicians think of us. We heard of it, and listen to what professionals are saying about how we are and what we could do. And perhaps at least at the end of the day, IESL would get some ideas and take them forward, particularly IESL to be an active partner in policy making, not perhaps necessary to be ministers or members of parliament, but then come very close to that. And secondly, of course, Mr. Sunil Vijay Singh's suggestion that we open up a branch or some activities through a productivity cell. Fine, let's move on to another round of questions. Yes, over there. Yes, we hear you.
Good evening. I am Vininda. I am a design engineer at Colombo Dockyard PLC. My first question is to Mr. Gavini Nandagunawardena. Now, as ISL, we all are ISL members, and we have office barriers of ISL. They are voluntarily got into those positions, and they should give us the leadership. So I ask Mr. Nandagunawardena to give us the guidance. Now you explain how we should set our mindset from engineers to be policy makers. You teach us how to change our mindset. Now I ask further guidance how we should proceed as ISL, how we can contribute to make national policies. Next question is to Mr. Sunil Vijayasinghe. Now I was involved in some activities in ISL in last year very closely. I see that we also, as ISL, we should increase our productivity. So I think I am not aware whether you are well known about how our council is working, how they are taking decisions, how productivity they are. So I ask your kind advices to our ISL council and other members to how to improve our productivity ourselves. Thank you.
Fine. Let's take another question or two. Yes, please, over there. Yes. Can you take a mic right at the back where the camera is? Yes.
I'm Priyangika, Engineer Priyangika.
Where I just, okay, can you, I don't see you. Okay, fine, start off. Yes, go ahead.
I'm Engineer Priyangika. This is not merely a question, but a suggestion how we can collect the engineers and create a voice as the Sri Lankans. I heard so many things from our well-educated, our engineers most probably, and the businessmen and policymakers. Then from that, I would like to suggest like this. We know that as the Sri Lankan, we have to say that we are very lacking in initiation something. That is the lack of, that is the beings, we are very slow in productivity. That initiation part is the very much lacking point of ours. Then for that, I would like to suggest IESL as a body of, like a voice of engineers, we can first collect the skilled engineers who is having the contribution to voluntarily help the people and make a collective team as the engineers through the IESL and go to the villages first. From their villages are there, very poor children are there, but not coming into these science and mathematical streams. Then we can collect them and voluntarily do something like courses or something from their childhood up to their tertiary level of education. Then we can make a voice from through the villages too. That means we know that the children, very poor children in the outside of from the developed cities are having the very good resilience to bear so many things because their lifestyles are not much they are not much rich, but they can bear so many things. Then we can start from their people and from their different level of their ages, we can collect them, and then after that, that volunteer engineers can identify the very good children up to the university level, and then make some suggestion to IESL. These are very good people, and we can make them more skills through this IESL as a long-term their future.
Fine.
And for that, to do this, if today why engineers are failed to come and do these things is, I think one of our speaker told that in Sri Lanka, engineers are there, but they are trying to make first to buy their vehicle, then make their houses. Then these are the things. Then after passing out from the university, they are trying to achieve their lifestyles like this. But why these engineers are not collectively coming into this, the bodies like this IESL, is I trust that because they are not having their minimum requirement. Then as the IESL, if we can make as a second point to protect that volunteer engineers who are willing to come forward and do these volunteer things for our younger generation and protect them in second, as a second point, then we can collect the engineers together. In third, as a third level, then we have to have a very good, well-structured mission, how to achieve this, our vision, to be very effective in Sri Lanka, in the development in Sri Lanka in the future. Then we, as the well-established engineering institute, and then our IESL can get those voice of very intelligent engineers. They are coming from the top rank in the mathematics science mathematics stream, and they are having the very innovative solution for this. Then we can make a collective sound and make a very good this well-structured mission how to achieve, and then we can come to the come in front of the politicians, and then we can start the policy making how to these things.
Yeah,
this is a suggestion.
Thanks very much. Can you be brief?
Yes.
May I move to a next question?
Yeah,
is
thank
it
you.
Okay?
Then
Yes.
I think this will be the way, but I ask from you all to tell us if there is any possibility to start like this and start from here to develop the Sri Lanka in the future.
Fine. Thank
you
very
much given the time.
In this round, we'll take one more question. The gentleman 2 rows ahead of you. Can you pass the mic? Just 2 rows ahead.
I'm Hamid. I'm from Senior Contracts Engineer, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. My question is, the country what now faces the problem. One is the foreign, to attract the FDIs, foreign direct investments, and other one is to increase the export growth. So now the policies of the voice of the engineers, the contribution should, how engineers, how best they can contribute to this. This is the issue that we need to discuss. Then the question is that engineers want to get into the parliament. First, we have to question ourselves. Now, there are many thousands of engineers working for railways, water board, electricity board, RDA, and many of the, and a lot of engineers are heading these departments. Are we are we governing these bodies in a proper manner that we are contributing, or we are draining the treasury, getting money? So we have to question, first we have to put these institutions in proper order and show that we have efficiently managed and contributed to the country, then we can get into the next stage. This is what my suggestion is.
Thanks very much. There were, I think, 2 questions and 1 comment. The first one was from the young engineer in DocCAD to Engineer Gamini Gunawardena. How do you propose him to develop his career from being just an engineer to be a technocrat? Secondly, I think he threw a general question as to how IESL itself could be more productive than what it is now. Yes.
Understood his question. I think it was more focused as a general question than his career. What he wanted to know is, am I correct? Yeah. What he wanted to know is basically to see how engineers can get into policy making and what type of mechanism or the role IESL should play. I think IESL has already started that role. That is quite aptly that this year the IESL has selected this topic, national policy making. And IESL is also on a transformation stage. Maybe there were ups and downs, but IESL also now recognized that they can't be just a passive technical expert. They have to be part of the development process. So probably the way what we could look at is there is not much difference. In fact, that gentleman said the same thing in a different form. Being a business leader and being a political leader, basically you need the same basic skill set. So first you have to be a proper business leader, and how many of you all can basically lead a business rather than just being a head of engineering or some functional discipline, for which you have to develop a wide plethora of skills and capabilities. Probably that's the area where we can take it up with the IESL Council and see what are the specific gaps areas. I know they are doing some management development programs and all that. So we can take on some of those areas and see how we can bring in either CPD courses or even as a separate stream to develop some of those areas. The second thing is from that stage to move on to, if you want to get into policy making and all that, whether we like it or not, right now, which is very fast changing, but right now, those who have the legal background, those who have the economist background are looked upon very favorably for policy making. So do we have that exposure? Do we have that knowledge? Maybe hardly very few. So that's the area, again, if we want, we should try and see how we can get those additional knowledge and widen our horizon, not very much deep into one particular subject. Then only you can be a more generalist. Plus, more and more importantly, engineers are very bad at managing people, generally. The reason being, there is a very valid reason. If any one of you are familiar with, you can go to Jack Welch's video. Jack Welch was recognized as the manager of the decade. What he says is, young, good people, they are being selected to universities, which is so much so for in Sri Lanka because the top 1% gets to Sri Lankan universities as engineers. When they get to universities also, they perform very well because they know that is within themselves. Then they get first classes, second uppers, whatever the best qualifications, and when they are being put into a job market also, they are very smart. And they are being selected by the CEOs. And they perform their job as an individual contributor very well. Then the management recognize that individual contribution and management promote them to manage a task or manage a team. He says that's where they fail. Because they don't recognize, so he used a very, very important word. He said, their success depends on the reflective glory of the people working below them. The moment they don't understand that, they keep on answering the questions. Although they are managing a team, they don't grow their team, they don't get them to perform. So this is an area where we have to very much focus on, especially developing soft skills for engineers to go into wider area, I think, which is very, very important, which involves communication skills, presentation skills, empathizing with people, managing people, developing people, whole set of areas where we have to develop our engineer skill set to be future leaders. It could be business leaders, it could be legislators. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the suggestion from the lady at the back is something on which IESL could dwell on, perhaps as a corporate social responsibility activity, a new stream in which there is an outreach activity to bring in engineers from the backward areas into the fold. But the question from the gentleman at the back, I think he had two questions. One is the FDI, the engineering talent required for the FDIs, and how much are we tapping our own talent that is available abroad. I think the second question was, are we managing our own institutions very well to be able to preach to others about productivity? Any thoughts from the panel?
I just first answer this gentleman's question whether IESL can improve its productivity, first of all. I would answer by saying that any organization can improve productivity, because productivity and quality, they say, are marathons without a finish line. So you can go on and on and on improving productivity. But to do that, one of the first things that you have to understand and believe in is that you haven't reached perfection, that there is a lot more to do, and that is a culture that Japan has, and we have the opposite culture here. That is the problem. Now we always think that we are very good and we are the best. Whereas Japan says now, or even some of the East Asian countries like Singapore. Singapore, when the OECD countries declared that Singapore is now, this was now somewhere in the 1990s, I think, declared that Singapore is now a developed country. They have been upgraded to a developed country. What did Lee Kuan Yew say? He said, don't believe that just like that. We are not yet developed. And that was in the front page of the papers. I was in Singapore at that time. And he said, our cleanliness is not good enough. And when he says that, I'm shocked, because we walk on the streets of Singapore, they are the cleanest roads I have come across. But Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister himself, says, we can improve cleanliness some more. We can improve our parks some more. And so many things. So if you take that attitude, you will improve. But on the other hand, once I saw in the Ceylon Daily News, they are quoting somebody who has said that Colombo is the cleanest city in the world. So if you believe that, what is there more to do? So you have to believe that there is always room for improvement. And when this and the Japanese always say, always reflect and see what you have done. Don't just pat yourself on the back after you have done something and say, everything went well. So when Mr. Jagat Piris now does the reflection after the end of this conference, he has to see, okay, what could we do better? Next time we organize the National Engineering Conference, can we make sure that Minister gets his token of appreciation before he leaves the stage? Can we make sure that can we make sure that there is no discrepancy in the title of the presentation between the compere and what the speaker has put up on his presentation? You know, those are the things that you must never at the end say, okay, everything went off well, we had a good lunch and we had everything went on time. No, focus on the negatives. Now, one Japanese person says the whole problem why we can't improve productivity in our factories is, now you know in Japan, they don't count defects in percentage. They count it in parts per million, right? And one expert came to advise a factory because this factory was having 20% rejects. And he goes and meets the plant manager and asks, I have come to help you. You know, I heard that you have a big problem. He says, no problem, plant manager says. And then the Japanese chap says, but I heard that you have 20% rejects. And then the plant manager says, yes, we have 20% rejects, but no problem. So that is the first step. Always focus on the negatives and see how you can improve. And if you do that, then half the battle is won. So whether it's the Institution of Engineers or any other institution or factory or organization, you have to constantly believe that there is something. That is one thing. Other thing is, one of the lessons I learned in Japan when I followed the Industrial and Systems Engineering course in 1980, our course was sort of coordinated by KU University and Professor Kawase, who himself was an engineer. He asked us, what is the role of an industrial engineer? Industrial engineers are supposed to be more on productivity and all. What is the role of the... So most of the answers, because we were all people from Asian countries, most of the answers, so okay, we have to devise new, more productive methods and better quality methods and all that. And he said, no. The most important role of an industrial engineer is to teach the simple, basic productivity improvement techniques to everybody. Right? And I was having this problem at Tire Corporation where I was working at that time. I am an industrial engineer. I have no line authority. And they go and do all sorts of silly things. Sometimes the positioning of machines was wrong, the way they put the foot pedal is wrong, there are lots of things wrong. And I tell the electrical engineer or the mechanical engineer or whoever it is, but they just ignore my suggestions. I went to Japan, came back, and I started giving a series of lectures. You know, how to locate machinery, how to do this, and production planning techniques. And then they realized, okay, they can improve this, and they did a lot of changes. But they were not my changes. I gave only some practical techniques, and they did the changes. In the same way, with teaching some of these things to the employees, that is at micro level productivity. My first job at State Engineering, I was also following all these productivity courses and so on, and I found that somebody is trying reinforcement at this height, and obviously that is not a very productive way of doing it. So I got two 1-inch bars bent and put a plank and told the man, now sit and tie the bars. And now his productivity is 5 times more. But then came my boss to the site. Don't spoil these fellows. They must stand and work. Don't get them to sit. But that's the sort of change that we need in this country. Thank you.
Fine. Thanks very much. I think there is one unanswered question. Would any one of you like to...
I heard about the FDIs.
Yes.
I'm a member of the Board of Investment also. What I say is, why should anybody come and invest here? Our energy cost is the highest in the world. Our labor cost is very high. And we should look at industries, high-tech industries, as Sunil said also. Now, even if you go to garment factories also, I know that Mars is doing it. There are a lot of very smart young engineers who are developing different devices. I know for Calvin Klein, one of Sri Lankans is devising where you have a small chip here. You can put your smartphone that gets charged. Then different fabrics. Likewise, we should look at industries that is high-tech, less labor-intensive, and less energy. And one thing what we should look at seriously is to sell knowledge. As I told in my talk also, do research and stuff like that here, than go into big industries, which is not conducive to us. Thank you.
There was one other question. He was asking whether the engineering institutions managed by engineers, are they good examples of good productivity or not?
Private sector has a lot to talk about it, but I don't want to get involved because I will lose my next tender then.
Anybody wants to comment? Yes, yes.
Well, talking about the foreign direct investment, this is again a practical experience which we have been going through because we have been dealing with most of the government mechanisms regarding the recent signing of this bilateral agreement. Now, the practical experience that came from them is they initially wanted to, these are facts, they initially wanted to liberalize the IT sector and the shipbuilding sector. Now, from our point of view, professionally, when we look at it, we look at these two gives us the specific competitive advantage of the country because of the location. So why, who has advised somebody to go and, liberalize the shipping sector? Then again, the same way, the IT sector, we were onto the very high-level market, we give the value-added high-level products to the European market. So when we asked the policymakers, what they said is, this is not what we want to do. This is the request that came from the industry. What was the reason? For IT sector, there was a shortage that private sector company, they have gone and asked, they wanted 100 project managers. The same with for the shipping sector, they wanted the 100 welders. So you can't, it is the same problems what I presented there because they have to satisfy the political demands. So based on the available information, they go ahead and they make policy decisions. So who is at fault? We are at fault. Why don't we be part of it and why don't we say that this is wrong, this is not the way to take the decision? So to answer your question about the foreign direct investment also, if you ask right now, there is no country study done. It is very open-ended and they just presume and assume I said it is like these dream stories of Green Brothers, so something like that. They just say, okay, we sign up with China, we sign up with India, then there will be a lot of transshipment comes and no study has been done, even up to now. So we as professionals, we have not contributed. So don't blame anybody else. We have appointed politicians, it is up to us to put them on the correct direction.
I think what he's talking is very right. Sri Lanka being an island, we must look at our maritime engineering, marine engineering, that we should not give to anybody else, we should develop that. And also in the IT sector, I know that Virtusa has developed some software for Mercedes-Benz also. So when we have those capabilities, why we give it away?
Then talking about the second point what he raised, I 100% I agree with you. Whether you run a government institution or whatever it is, you should run it as a business you are running to make profits. Whether on paper, on books, for the political decision, whether you make profits or not, that is a different thing. But we should have that culture. But why it cannot happen is because we being engineers, we work as transactional oriented managers. We don't work as transformational leaders. So please change your mindset.
Thank you very much. Let's go to a next round of questions. Yes, you over there. Yes, please. Please get a mic to that table. Can you raise the hand so that we see you? Just a moment. Can you get a mic for him, please? Where are the mics? There were a few. Okay. May I have your permission to get his question first, and then thereafter the mic will come to you. Yes, please.
My name is Hussein. I have two questions. Now, we are talking about voice of engineers in the national policies. As engineers, we have to lead the country, and as Minister said, we have to involve in politics. But it is difficult to go to the parliament for engineers, for contesting in an election or something like that. But there is a possibility like what the learned the speaker said, that there is a possibility of going through the national list or something like that. That is one thing. For the administrating, we don't know how many engineers who are the secretaries or senior secretaries in the ministerial level. Something like that, if you are talking about some organization which is coming under a certain ministry, which may be an engineering organization, which is fully administered by an administrator. Maybe there are few administrators who are engineers, they are administrating. If you take a health ministry, there is, I think, a secretary is a doctor. Or if you take another ministry, something like Ministry of Power and Energy, maybe, I don't know, it is a non-engineer. Oh, we have to, as an IESL, as an engineering body, has to identify which are the engineering related ministries which can be administered by engineering, because there are a lot of senior engineers who can do a good administration as well as manage. Therefore, we have to initiate some sort of, IESL has to do some sort of initiation, say in the policy making, apart from the members of the parliament or something, we have to do an administration. So we have to be involved in engineering administration.
Fine. Thank you
so
very much.
So we have to make that suggestion.
That's your two questions. Can you please get the mic to him over there? Okay, you got the mic. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
All right. I'm Tilak Pereira, member of IET. First of all, thank you very much for your interesting lectures and for your time. Before coming to my question, can I make a suggestion to the event managers and the moderator? Because I myself didn't want to raise this question because most of the time I struggle to get my words right. So therefore, please accept written questions or by text or Twitter and all that latest developments. Coming back to my question now, Engineer Vijay Singh has suggested IESL starting a separate sector for productivity development. My suggestion is, in parallel, to talk about health and safety. We have to talk about Health and Safety Act and maybe construction design management regulations, because I see Sri Lanka is now going to enter a fast developing stage. So if you're going to build the port city, if you're going to make Sri Lanka the logistic hub of the Asia, so many activities will going on in the country. We're talking about railway electrification. We are talking about a light railway system for Colombo City. So what I'm telling is we won't be able to get the best out of these endeavors if we don't have a good safety record. We're going to invite more. I mean, in years to come, we will see more and more foreigners or tourists coming to the country, more and more investors coming to the country. I mean, economic activities in the country, we can see, well, increasing maybe 10%, 20% or 100%. So, the suggestion is, when we talk about productivity, same time please talk about health and safety. Because other countries, they have institution of health and safety, maybe other strong health and safety regulations. Quality and health and safety, they go together hand in hand. Thank you.
Fine, thank you very much. You made a suggestion to accept written questions. So we are willing to accept written questions. We still have about 20 minutes to go in this discussion. So if anybody wants to write down a question and send it to us, please do. You can still raise your hand and say you have a written question. Somebody will come and pick the paper from you. Mr. Fernando, can you bring the mic forward here?
Thank you, Tilak, and thank you, SP, for organizing this wonderful seminar, conference on Voice of Engineers and National Policies. Now, before we do go any further, we have a large cross-section of engineers here, but just passed out, middle level, seniors, and retired like us. I speak here as a engineering manager who retired, and I also speak here as a young engineer who had put his hand into doing electric welding. I've seen Tilak climbing ladders and doing wiring. I'm sure Sunil himself said he has been working the factory floor. So the young engineers must not run after this conference saying, now look here, we have to become technocrats from tomorrow. I speak here as an engineering manager. We need engineers to do solid engineering work in this country. If you lose that touch,
nobody's going to listen to you thereafter. You can be an excellent technocrat. Very soon they'll find out you don't know your ABC in engineering. So the young engineers must not run out of this room thinking that from now onwards, we have to be only technocrats. The time will come that you've got to be a technocrat. Speak out. Today we are focusing on voice of engineers. I have heard this over and over again. Last year we heard from His Excellency the President himself, you are the best in the world. There were doctors in the audience and said, you are better than doctors. And later on during tea I was there, said, can you call that doctor? I want to tell him, I didn't mean any harm to him. President said that at the last National Engineering Conference. You all are better than the doctors. I'm not saying this. You can go back and see the records. We are the best. We know that. We are the best. Today what we did here, Dr. Amanugam was saying again and again, you all are doing wonderful. You all are the best. But mild criticism, you are not heard. Then we heard last week, or a couple of weeks ago, Tilak was, and I was there. A few of us were here. Deputy Minister of Power Energy, he gave sort of very fiery speech. He said, you all are the best in the world. But your voice is not heard. So what is happening? Our voice needs to be heard. True enough. So the whole symposium today is focused on getting our voice across. So then you asked, somebody asked, and I think Tilak was trying to elicit an answer from most of the panel, but they shunned it very, very well. Yes, we manage one of the most important sectors in the country. The water, the irrigation, power, telecom. Who are the heads? Engineers. Engineers are the heads. Then if our voice is not heard, who is responsible? We, the engineers. I think Nandana also mentioned the same thing. Don't blame anyone. If our voice is not heard, it's our fault. I'm doing a self-reflection myself. Now, let's take a very, very simple and mundane example and stop. Sunil was touching about productivity. I said, yes, we are good in productivity, but I'm sure he said that it's a bit of tongue in his cheek at the moment. As well. We engineering managers, have we thought about when you send a gang of people to work, we said a driver, a linesman, a golea to the linesman, a golea to the golea, right? So they go just to fix the small thing. The driver is idling, the linesman is on the ground, maybe instructs the golea to climb, or maybe golea's golea to climb. The linesman goes for a cup of tea, golea climbs, ladder is held by the golea's golea, golea falls, dies. 5 people watching, job not done, 1 man died. Who is responsible? Have we as engineering managers reflected on our own work norms, work ethics, and indicators of product that we all have studied in campus days, in so many seminars and conferences and training programs? Right? Are we putting what we know into practice in our own workplace? Then we blame the government. Government procedures, red tape. We can't do anything. This is our stock excuse for not doing things. I always used to say, when you are given a job, first you go there and try to look at all the circulars. This circular tells me I can't do this. This circular tells me I can't do this. So you keep on putting sticks around yourself and say, now, come on. How can I work? I'm fenced in. But who fenced you in? You yourself fenced you in. Let's be conscious. Let's prick our own conscience. let's step our own heart and ask, have we done our job? Have we made our voice heard in a responsible manner while managing our own workplaces? So coming back to the policies, yes, I have no questions. I have no answers, only questions. But I think we all got together, need to get together with only one small punchline. I'll stop, Tilak. Sorry for bringing this out. There are people who say, if the president had said, you engineers have only got to obey the president, that's all.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can take one more question before we go to a... Yes, please, from here. Can you get a mic here? Over here, front row.
I'm Sharif Dean. My question is that engineering consultancy is one of the lucrative businesses in the world. And we have talented engineers in Sri Lanka because of our high quality of education. And all other industries related to engineering are capital intensive. Comparatively, consultancy is a little bit less capital intensive. And then why we are unable to make any breakthrough in the international level in engineering consultancy. And I think that if we can properly harness the benefits of it, we can even one day consult our own government itself. So what makes us unable to make any breakthrough in this sector? Especially, I appreciate that the moderator is one of the pioneers in that sector, but generally, my comment is that we have not made any breakthrough in this.
Fine. Thank you very much. I think there were two questions or other comments from here about engineers not being adequately represented in the bureaucracy. And there's one question remaining from over there as to why not couple the productivity together with health and safety. And of course, the comment from Mr. Xavi Fernando and the comment from Mr. Sharif Dean. Over to you, the panel. I'm not sure who will take these questions, but certainly coupling health and safety with productivity, Sunil, you can take that question.
Yeah, I think that is a sensible thing to do because not only productivity, but I think the whole gamut of those disciplines like productivity, quality, health and safety, standardization, and all that should go together. And that was, I mean, basically my suggestion. But we have to also note that for health and safety now, there is a National Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH. So they are already working. But still the institution can liaise and coordinate with them and perhaps maybe make a greater contribution if that can be done. Can I comment on that other thing about engineer representations in bureaucracy and so on? My suggestion is don't go to parliament. Because even if you are a nominated MP, you won't be able to do much. If you are not a cabinet minister, there is hardly anything you can do. Even if you are a deputy minister, you can't do very much, and some deputy ministers are already complaining. Even if you go to, even if you are in the cabinet, the more articulate lawyer colleagues in your cabinet will drown you out. So once again, you won't have much of a say. Even if you become the secretary of the ministry and you have your own ideas, it's very difficult to say, this is my idea. But if you are a secretary of a ministry or if you are a minister, if there is a very strong lobby, very strong body that is making a suggestion, you have no choice but to listen to them. So my suggestion is become a very strong body and lobby, because that is the best way of looking at it. And you can see, you know, in this country also, like, will any minister ignore something that the GMOA says? You can't, because they are very strong. So you have to become a very strong, powerful body making some valid suggestions in policy making rather than getting into all these things and then getting into a trap. Thank you.
I think to take on what Mr. Sharifdeen said, I think our foreign missions and the government should look at to promote our capabilities worldwide. Now look at Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew went to a place like Germany and told Mercedes-Benz and Bosch and Volkswagen, big companies, you do your tropical research in our country. We'll give everything. The Mercedes-Benz hydrogen car, even now, when they bring in electric cars, everything, to do trials in tropical conditions, they do in Singapore. So I think the government and our foreign missions should tell the world the capabilities that we have and the incentive that we could give so that they would make use of our talent.
Thank you very much. Any more written questions, please raise your hands up or give it to one of the assistants to bring your written question over here. Yes, please.
I think he raised a very valid question. Now, if the intellectual capital is what we have, why we are not trying to make use of it? Now, again, it is coming back to us. Now, for example, again, if you look at countries like India, Singapore, Malaysia, when they identify their, in particular industries, unique industries, they try to inculcate and develop that industries within the country itself. Government sponsor and government private partnerships, they form companies and they bring it to a critical mass. Now, for example, the specific case is the Malaysia Iris Identity Card project. They started it as an initial concept and they funded it and they make it a viable product. And after that, the government even supported marketing it outside the country. But if you really look at for the last 10 years, what type of intellectual capital we have got to the professionals through some of these development projects. Please speak to yourselves and see. Right? So these are the areas where we should lobby and say these are the areas where you get the foreign knowledge, not that we know everything, but then we have to develop that mass for us to develop a business out of it. So that's the area I think we should focus on. Then coming back to a comment Sunil made, I 100% agree with Sunil, other than one comment. I think our engineers can outperform lawyers. There is no question. If we are ready, we can outperform lawyers. But I 100% agree with what Sunil said. Don't get into the party politics. Professionals should be above party politics, and we should be in a position to dictate terms to any party, any government.
Thank you very much. May I also make a comment on Mr. Sharifdeen's questions about why we cannot export talents in design through consulting, etc. Yes, I think we are not very well organized to do that. But would you believe that most of the railway electrical engineering designs in 2 or 3 companies in Europe are done in a small house in Ambalangoda by 3 Ruhuna University graduates, and they are not even electrical engineers, but they are engineering graduates. So there are various activities going on, mostly unknown to us. So the issue is that we don't know of them, and there is no specific support for them to expand their business. And if that is the talent we have, and 3 engineers who are only 5 with 5 years experience, almost all the electrical designs are done by these 3 people for several railway engineering companies in Europe. So with that note, let me move on to a written question. Before doing changes, we have to reconsider the curriculum at universities, that is to include some subjects addressing humanities and social sciences. That's a question, written question I have. So with that in mind, may I invite a last round of questions for today? Yes, I have 1, 2, 3 hands going up this way. So shall we start off with you from in the front? Can we get a mic here? Yes, please.
I'm Lalita Pereira. My question is that what's the role of engineer who has legal qualification like LLB, and what are the opportunities for an engineer who has legal qualifications, like job opportunities like that?
Fine, thank you very much. There's one more plus two others at the back. Yes.
I think we all are aware there's a paper called Engineering Society. First beginning, become a chartered engineer. There's a paper, chartered engineer, Engineering Society. then we have to give some improvements. It is only a suggestion. The other thing is, since 1977 itself, IESL is conducting management development for engineer certificate level course. College of Engineering has to upgrade this course up to diploma level. These are only suggestions. That is one of the way to give some more advanced training to the engineers.
That was the second question. There were two more questions on this side. Yes, the gentleman in blue shirt, please bring the mic to him.
I'm from Navy. I'm Commodore Patirana. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My first question I would like to ask Mr. Pantagi about, and he said our country is located in Silk Route, and he said how important our place is, and we are connecting East and West. And my question is, if we are located in such important place, why our politicians, they go and try for investors to come and invest on this country if we are located in the best place in the country? We talk about histories, we talk about many things, our irrigation systems. Then we do market ourselves, but are we marketing ourselves internationally? I don't personally believe that we are located in the best place in the world for people to come and invest. That's my first question. And next thing is opinion. Now in Navy, when we are talking to young engineers, we say, if you want to be an important person, you have to do some job and show the executives that you are important. And as engineers, if you want to step into policy making, boards or tables, then you have to show that you are important. If you are not important, nobody will accept you. You have to show, you have to do some engineering work, some practical engineering work, rather than doing the management. What we do in this country is basically management. So if we can produce something, if we can do something new, then everybody will accept us. So that is how we can be a policymaker. So that's all.
Fine. Thank you very much. We'll take one more question before we turn to the panel.
Yes.
Yes.
This is Donald, associate member from the IESL. Now, I just want to put two comments or questions about this productivity and quality management. Now, the first thing is we don't understand who our customers, as engineers, we don't understand who our customers and what our customers want. First thing is, we talk about productivity. Now, this event start half an hour late today. So if we can put a target next time, 9 o'clock means 9:05, yeah, it's acceptable. If that we can make the next year, that we will do the walking of what we talk. That is my first thing. We just wasted half an hour in the morning and we are talking about productivity and at a national level. We'll start things at a simple level. The second one is, as engineers, we don't understand who our customers is. If we serve our customers really well, customers will come to us and we don't need to go behind customers and like just to say who we are and what we think and that. It's same as at national level, I think. We don't understand our customers well and we don't know who our customers is. So we do that one first, things will fall into order. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you. Let's take responses from the panel before we go to our very last round of questions. So I think the first and brief question here was, what are the opportunities for an engineer with legal qualifications?
I think not only legal, but if you have, when we interview engineers, if they have extracurricular activities and different knowledge from whether LLB or accountancy is very much needed.
Fine, thank you. Anybody else wants to respond, or even from the audience, you can respond.
In a lighter vein, he can go to the parliament. Because that is the one qualification right now. The second area is, as I explained very clearly, those who are with the legal background and economist background, again, very favorably. Right now, the situation is they are being looked for policy making. Then as an engineer, if you want to get into it, is to arbitration, contract administration. That is again an area where you can specialize and you can get into by combining your engineering and legal qualifications.
Thank you very much. I quite couldn't pick your question. Would you want to respond to him, if any one of you remember? Yeah, it was a comment, right? It was a comment. Right. Let's move on to the question from our member in the Navy. You had sent a written question as well. First question was to you, Mr.
Yeah,
Pandit
I
again.
think I definitely believe that we are very well poised for logistic functions alone. Now just look at Singapore. Singapore is one of the largest refineries in the world without having a drop of oil. They're one of the largest refineries in the world. I think there are a lot of opportunities there for logistic functions. As a country, as an island for engineering, the opportunities are greater.
Fine. You had a second question as well. Unless you are a practical engineer, practicing engineer, is it possible for you to get into policy making or give policy advice? Would anybody want to comment? Yes?
Well, this is how we have to look at. Now, when I said that within next 10 years, the engineers will be extinct, what I meant is it is not engineers, those who really practice engineering. Those who really practice engineering, they should be behind the innovation, they should be behind creativity, who brings value to the country, value to the society. They cannot be displaced. But the type of people, those who are signing OT sheets, those who are signing attendance sheets, they will be extinct, right? So, yes, and connecting to what Shavi said also, when you start your career, you have to make a clear decision, what drives you, what is the passion behind you. If you want to be a real engineer, one way is you can go into creativity, innovation, value addition, that is one route. But that alone won't be suitable because the skill set and the competencies that is required for you to be a legislator or a policy maker is totally different. Because here you specialize on one particular area vertically, whereas if you want to make a policy maker, you have to have a more wider spectrum of knowledge, wider spectrum of exposure, and managing soft skills, managing stakeholder expectations, that skill set is different. So you have to make a choice. That does not automatically qualify by just having creativity and innovation and product addition that you can be a policy maker. But it is a good position to be.
Fine, thank you very much. I think the last question from the back was about the timing of the conference itself. But be assured that I will stop on time exactly at 1:15. We will take two written questions. One was about the curriculum. Do you have any thoughts about the engineering curriculum? I think at this moment I can even allow a member of the audience, particularly from the universities, to respond to this question. Would any one of you from the universities particularly think that we should introduce subjects on humanities and social sciences to engineering? Yes. Mic is required here.
I'm S.B. Vijayakorn, immediate past president. So thank you for the opportunity. I think all the engineering faculties in Sri Lanka, I think we are having this semester system, everybody will agree. And there, I think one of the key area is introducing this social science, management and project management and all these non-engineering courses. So I think if anybody wants to get the details, I think these handbooks are available on the websites and all the university engineering faculties, so you can browse through. And in fact, in order to get these degree programs accredited, I think the ISL manual is very clearly stated that number of credits are required on this non-engineering humanities and social science, that area. So I think that's been...
Do you think there is a need for more when you look at how your engineers are practicing in the
fact, I think there are arguments, there are two sides of the story. So some arguing that we should increase the engineering content in the courses, and some says we have to increase socialities and humanities and things like that. So this is debating at the faculty level. So hopefully when they are coming for next revisions in most of the programs, they might do some revisions to that. Okay, thank you.
Fine, we'll go to one written question. Sri Lanka does not have many industries. IESL holds the Junior Inventor Program every year. Can't IESL support the best products to convert or rather upgrade them to a manufacturing industry? Because of the taxes, etc., most of the entrepreneurs emerging out of IESL's Young Junior Inventor Program cannot get into industry. Would IESL like to comment on it? I think that the question is largely related to incubators, where institutions, universities, technical colleges support their students to start off, perhaps with some financial support, maybe the use of the premises, and looking for or finding the markets. Would any office bearer from IESL would like to comment? Yes, Mr. Migode. Mike.
Junior Inventor of the Year program, as you all know, has been conducted for so many years. The main idea of the IESL is to get a more creative future generation. I think we have many examples of this, out of these kids who championed in the national level competitions and then even at international level competitions. They are performing very well, and we are trying to get these products commercialized after they passed out from the schools, because these are school kids. So at that level, we don't want them to going into these commercial ventures. But after they went to university, now we have examples like the first kid who won this grand awards at the international level. Now he is having his own company called TechSurge, and he is performing very well. Now he is working in international software company, and he is working in his, he's having his private company also. And like we have even some kids we have invited here to be in this audience, they are there. And I think it's a very good program, and of course we have this JIY Alumni Club. So from that club, we, IESL, help them to further their education and to going into this entrepreneurship.
Fine.
And Tilak, I would like to just tell something on this, all the suggestions. There were some criticisms of IESL. I think you can see the enthusiasm, large numbers are here. I think what we, as IESL, what we need is the active participation of our members. We know we have a very large number of members, 20,000. IESL is a very organization which has been evolved for centuries now. For last few years, there are a lot of new things happening. So large numbers are participating. Now in committees, there are large numbers and a lot of things are happening. Especially like now we talk a lot on these courses, continuing professional development. I think there are large numbers participating. It's a very good sign, and I think I invite all of you, all the engineers now, especially engineer Sunil Vijay Singh, who talked about this quality cell. So I think I invite him to be the head of this quality cell that we are going to establish next year. I think you all, I think that is what we needed today. We have our own criticisms, I think that's true, but the way we are working, all will reflect. So we can't get this all recognition, it will not come to you. If you are working, as Engineer Shaifran said, you have to be a very good engineer. So that is our strength. And then all this management and all these other qualifications comes next. Now sometimes what will happen is we just pass out engineers, next day we start MBA. Don't do that. MBA, you need some experience to do MBA. That should not be a course just taken by heart, but it should be a course with your experience. When you come to the management level, you can do this MBA and you can be a good manager. First, become a good engineer first and then try to be a manager. I mean, you will be invited for policy making if you are doing good in your engineering. And especially for IESL activities, there are a large number of things happening. Everyone has a place at IESL. So if you all come in here, and it should be a recognized place whenever there is something happen in engineering related, say a flood, or any issue related to engineering, the policymakers, the rulers of the country should come to IESL and ask what is happening, what is your advice. So that should be the way we have to develop the institution. It will not come overnight. So we have come a long way, so that should be the next step. This is why we have selected a topic like this, so it's all of our duty. It's not only the council, it is not only the president, it is the duty of all members to make ISL a better place for the country.
Fine, thank you very much. With that encouraging note, I think we have to bring the session to a closure. I don't think we need to summarize what we said. I'm sure everybody here, as well as ISL officials, office bearers, the council particularly, would have taken note of the suggestions that came up, and definitely to you all in the audience, I'm sure this was a fruitful session, particularly because we had a lot of time for this session. And to my panelists, thank you very much for participating and giving your very valuable ideas to make this interaction very useful. And as we see, members have attended this conference in very large numbers, because I'm sure they value ISL's leadership in participating and in encouraging a policy dialogue, definitely with the government. So with that note, let me bring this to a closure. Thank you very much.
Indeed, that's been a very fruitful session. So we would like to invite the chairman of the conference committee and immediate past president, engineer Dr. S.B. Wichekon, to hand over to our moderator, Dr. Tilak Siambalapitiya, a token of appreciation. Thank you. Thank you very much, moderator Dr. Siambalapitiya. Wonderful. So now we have our meal break, also referred to as lunch. And we need to be innovative, or you need to be innovative. There are fewer ladies here, that's fine. There are far more men, somewhere in the region of 300. And we have just 4 or 5 spaces in the toilet. How are you going to handle that? You need to use all of your skills and innovation. And the food is served and ready and waiting to be partaken of, so that's where it is. That too will require some serious consideration and design how you're going to get there and get back here in time for our next session, which is due in exactly an hour from now, or maybe just a little less, 2:15. So we leave that with you. Do enjoy the break.